Hi everyone. Good to see you on my channel today. Today I will tell you a wonderful story. It is full of love and kindness. I hope you enjoy it and I wish you an enjoyable viewing experience. Thank you.
Maria sat and looked out the window. It was fall outside. Rain was drizzling. Leaves were falling from the trees. The woman was in about the same mood. She watched a few people walking in the courtyard. Her body ached, but Maria didn't notice it anymore. She was so used to it that she didn't feel anything. "Maria, are you going to have dinner?" One of the workers looked in on her. "No, thank you. I had no appetite at all." After all that the woman had been through, she wanted nothing. The only thing she regretted was not having children. And now, when her last time came, there was no one to come to her. Only social workers, who often felt sorry for her. Maria was born in an ordinary family. There was a father and a mother. Since childhood, the girl did not know other relatives. Perhaps she had them, but no one told her about it. "Maria, come to dinner," her mother called her from the kitchen. Now, happy she ran and hugged her mother. She loved the evenings when they sat as a family around the table. Daddy would tell stories that had happened to him as a child. The woman and the girl would laugh until they cried. But it ended when he was gone. The man left early. He was not yet 55 years old. "Mommy, don't cry, please," Maria hugged her. "Yes, sweetheart." She wiped the tears, but they still rolled from her eyes. They continued to live together. Although Maria had already graduated from all educational institutions, she was in no hurry to leave her mother. She was quiet, modest. One could say she wanted to be invisible to everyone. "Why haven't you met anyone yet?" The woman wondered. "I don't know, I guess I didn't want to," Maria shrugged. She worked as a simple sales clerk. Alone badly, the mother was silent. Maria seemed that at these moments she remembered her father. The girl herself often remembered him. She reviewed the photos where they traveled together to the south. Daddy was still fully healthy then. "I don't know, I'm afraid of something," the daughter confessed. The mother helped her daughter in everything, even, one could say, sometimes just did some things for her. "Maria, you to the phone," she called her daughter when she was in her room. "Who?" She was surprised and walked down the hall to answer. "I don't know," the woman shrugged. "Hello," she picked up the phone. "Maria, hello," shouted a woman's voice into the receiver. "Who is this?" She looked at her mother, who was still standing by her side. "What are you?" "It's Naomi," did not recognize it. "Ah, Naomi, hello." Maria was surprised to hear her specifically. She was the head of their class, and she had never had any interest in her. "Listen, there's a class reunion. We want to rent a restaurant. It's been 20 years since we graduated," Naomi said. "Okay, I'll think about it." She'd never been invited out before. "There's nothing to think about. Come on," the whole class agrees, demanded the answer right now. "Okay, I'll come," Maria said it, although she knew that if she didn't come, no one would even notice it. "That's it. Included you in the list," cheerfully said the former classmate and hung up. "And what did she say to you?" Looked mother on Maria. Invited to the evening of the meeting, the girl sat down immediately on a chair that stood in the hallway. "You have never met before. Why now?" the woman asked. "I don't know." Maria stood up and went into the room. "Are you coming?" Mom asked another question after her. She probably hadn't decided yet. The next day at work, Maria kept thinking about this proposal. What would she wear if she decided? What would she tell there? Why these thoughts were running around in her head, she herself did not know. But when she returned home, she knew for sure that she would be present at this celebration. And even if she has nothing to say and boast about, but she will look at others, listen to their stories. "I need to buy a dress," she said at home. "Can I help you?" Her mother was ready to go shopping. If you are not difficult, and there is free time, Maria was going to. Of course, the woman was only happy to see such a change in her daughter's behavior. For once, she was going to an event. They walked past storefronts, wanted to go into each, but money was in short supply, so they chose what was cheaper. Look, the woman saw a very beautiful dress in one of the shop windows. No, I can't afford it, the daughter confidently went on. To the store she was going to was only a few meters away. Yes, there really is a lot to choose from. The woman walked along the rows and looked at the outfits. This and this, Maria took a couple of dresses and went to the fitting room. When she came out the first time, her mom didn't like it, but the second time out, she appreciated it. A dark dress, just below the knee, it was a little bit shiny. It so liked both of them that they decided not to measure anything else to take it. There's enough for the shoes, Maria was glad. Sure, and if not, I can add. Mom got into the excitement. Good, Maria was ashamed that her mother was suggesting such a thing to her. They went for a walk and picked out a pair of classic loafers, which the girl bought for herself. Oh, Maria, why haven't you met a man? The woman admired her daughter. Enough already about it. The girl was embarrassed. The outfit was ready. The event was a few weeks away. Maria went to work. She thought every time how she would look, what to say. But when a few days passed, discarded these thoughts. They just drove her to a headache. So, are you ready? Mom felt like she was preparing her daughter for a party at school. Why do you care so much? You're not a little girl, Maria told her. I want my daughter to be the best. The woman came up to her and corrected a non-existent crease in her dress. Okay, thank you, they hugged. After that, the girl took her purse and went to where they were waiting for her. There was a dim light burning in the hall, and music was playing quietly while there were only a few people here. Maria walked through and quietly sat down at a table. Maria, are you? A woman approached her. She stared at her face, but couldn't recognize her. Yes, she nodded. How are you? Haven't seen you in ages. She sat down next to her. It's okay. She was going through her classmates in her head, remembering who they might be. I'm divorced for the third time. I don't know what these men want, she sighed. Natalie, Maria shone. What? She stared at her. No, it's just that. She realized she had just remembered that it was Natalie, the head of the class. But if before she was a beauty, guys were stacked in front of her. Now she was a total dame who didn't look her age at all, but older. Look, Naomi is here. A classmate looked towards the entrance. Yes, Maria also saw a woman in a strict dress enter the hall. Naomi had always been like that. She wore a uniform. Even when it was cancelled, she thought a student looked neat in it. Right now, she didn't bother dressing up, but wore a classic black dress. It made her look like a teacher. Hello everyone, the former headmistress approached the tables. She was looking at whether everything was here from what they had ordered. Oh look, Frederick, the first guy in our class. Natalie never tired of commenting. Maria was a little embarrassed. She was getting tired of this woman. People came and sat down at the tables. Everyone changed, became older. Some of them had grey hair. Others had a network of wrinkles on their faces when they smiled. Maria, hello. A man sat down across from her. She recognized Evan immediately. Hi, there was a shiver inside. How are you? He picked up the utensils, taking them out of the napkins. Good, how are you? She looked at him. How much she liked him in high school. Evan looked good now too. I'm fine too. Working, he poured the wine, put some appetizers on his plate. Family, kids? Natalie wanted to know. No, it didn't work out that way. First I served, then I started building a career. Everything seemed to be going well, but he missed the most important thing. And now, all alone, he's got his hands full. What are your years? Was surprised by the girl that he had already put a cross on himself. Everything is possible. He spoke so calmly, it seemed that the man had no nerves at all. People were coming in. Someone had already started talking loudly. As the evening passed the halfway point, classmates began to cluster, who was friends with whom. Tables were shifting. Everyone was discussing something. Let's go. Evan showed Marie to the dessert table and have tea. Let's go. She got up from the chair. It was nice that he didn't ask any questions about her private life, where she was with whom and when. How delicious. He took a bite of one of the cakes. It made Marie laugh. Evan was acting like that time in school when they bought sweet-baked peaches in the cafeteria. What? He looked at her. No, just remembering. She laughed for real now. Well, you try one. He handed her another dessert. No, thanks. I don't really like it, she grumbled. So let's go dancing. He wiped his hands with a napkin and stood looking at her. Okay. Maria didn't recognize herself. Why was she acting like this? This had never happened to any man before. Not only that she didn't talk to them. She certainly wouldn't dance with anyone. Tell me, do you have a husband, a family? Evan asked uncertainly. Why did you ask? She was wary. I don't know, you were so modest at school. But now you're blooming like a flower. He looked at her. You're embarrassing me. She could feel herself liking him. So what? He was still waiting for an answer. No, I don't have anyone. And never have. I live with my mom, I work. Her face flooded with color. She thought Evan was going to say she was a blue stocking. But he didn't. He just hugged her tighter. You what? She smiled. Maybe we could try it. Me alone, you alone. Why not? He looked her straight in the eyes. I don't know. She looked away. Maria, are you losing something? He asked her. No, she glanced around the room. Someone was about to go home. Well, what then? If we don't like it, if we realize we're not right for each other, we'll just say so and break up, he reasoned. Okay, she smiled. The dance ended and Evan and Maria returned to their seats. They sat there, talking about something. At that moment, Emma ran into the hall. She was late, but she made it. She was a recognizable woman, so everyone turned their heads at once and began to greet her. Oh, sorry I'm late. She was looking for a seat. She settled on a couple, Evan Maria. There was hardly anyone sitting at their table, so she headed there. Well, tell me. She began to put appetizers and pour into a glass. What? Evan was confused. He was busy talking to Maria and didn't want to be distracted. What about what? It's been so many years. Nothing has happened, she gibbered. Let's get out of here. Evan leaned over to Maria and whispered in her ear. Okay, she nodded. What, you're leaving already? I just got here. Emma looked at them. Sorry, time to go home. Evan touched her shoulder. Nice classmates. She glanced around at the other tables, looking for someone else to talk to. As the couple left the restaurant, Evan wanted to take a cab, but Maria talked him into walking. Did you ever think we'd be together? He asked her on the way. Of course not. She was ashamed again. And so was I. You know, when I was in high school, I thought I was the best, he said with his back straightened, almost beating his chest. He was. She remembered how girls looked up to him, including her. Did you too? He stopped and looked at her. What was the big deal? She couldn't understand. I didn't think so, Evan said in a disappointed voice. When they were in 8th grade, a group of guys from their class were called to some military training camp. 5 of them had agreed to go. They went away, practiced, and when they came back, it turned out that Evan was not among them. Later, the teacher explained that he was noticed by a man who was involved in the shooting of a military movie. He offered to star in a mass offensive. Evan did not refuse. Let them, there will be a lot of people. But who else can boast that starred in a real big movie? Upon his return, he became the star of the school. Girls followed him around in droves, but he ignored them. Why do you say that? Maria discovered a new Evan today. Yeah, the opposite sex had paid attention to me before, but not much. After what happened, they started flooding me with notes and gifts. It turns out they didn't need a man as he is, but only that everyone knows him now. He was looking under his feet. You're making a big deal out of something, she laughed. Maybe, I don't know, Evan smiled. They reached the house where Maria lived, stopping. "Aren't you going to change your mind?" Evan asked when she was ready to enter the driveway. "I don't think so." She looked at him one more time. The man and woman parted ways. She entered the apartment, flinched when her mother turned on the light. "Why are you up?" she asked her. "I was waiting for you. I was wondering how everything went." They never had secrets from each other. Everything was fine. Maria was so tired. She didn't want to talk to anyone right now. She just wanted to go to her bed. "Okay, you'll tell me tomorrow," the woman understood. They dispersed to their rooms and lay down. It took Maria a long time to fall asleep. She remembered Evan's words, but how could she, just like that, and start living with him? It would take some getting used to. Sleep was stronger than Maria's thoughts. She fell asleep. In the morning, the girl went to work. She decided not to fill her head with unnecessary thoughts. Let everything go as it goes. Life will sort itself out. After a day of work, she decided to buy something tasty home, sit with her mother at the table, chat, because she had not told her anything yet. She went home happy. Maria did not understand where it all came from. She didn't get halfway home when Evan caught up with her. "I wanted to meet him after work. I didn't have time, sorry." He handed her a rose. It was nice. Maria was surprised at the gesture, for they were not 15 years old. "Home?" he guessed. "Yes, where else?" She sniffed the flower. "I'll see her off." He didn't seem to know what to talk to her about. "You already have." She liked being near him. "Have you thought about what we talked about last night?" He's back to his old tricks. Yeah, she didn't want to lie to him. So, he was waiting. "I agreed to try it yesterday." She glanced in his direction. "Then go to the store and meet my mom." He stopped. "You know her?" Maria grinned. "Yes, as your classmate. And now, I'll go as a real man and future son-in-law," he said loudly. "You're going somewhere else," Maria said. Evan ordered to wait for him on the bench and went somewhere else. He came back with a bouquet of flowers and a bag full of something else. "Why so much? Do you think we don't have anything to eat?" She even took offense. "What are you saying? I can't go visiting empty-handed." He would have come over and hugged her, but his hands were full. Maria opened the door in the entryway. They went upstairs. "Mom, meet us. We have guests." Maria warned the woman. She liked to go out to meet her in the hallway, in anything. And who was it? She came out in a road. "Hello," Evan handed her a bouquet. "Evan," she recognized him immediately. "That's right," he answered out of habit. "Come in. Why are you standing here?" The mother looked at her daughter confused. She wished she hadn't said anything. She would have known what was going on. Evan and Maria went to the kitchen, and the woman went to her room, wanting to change her clothes. While her mother was away, the hostess offered tea to the man, who was sorting out his bag. "Maybe some champagne first?" He took a bottle out of the bag. "I don't mind." She started taking out glasses. Wow, a woman walked in, surprised. On the table was a cake, fruit candy. "Have a seat. I didn't want the women to bother themselves today, Evan." Everyone sat down at the table. The man poured a sparkling drink into glasses. The woman sat down. She only had eyes for Evan. "Why are you looking at me like that?" He was embarrassed. "I can't understand how it could happen. We studied in the same class for so many years, lived practically next door to each other, and met only now," she sighed. "Sometimes it happens in life. You don't notice something, and then it's like your eyes open," Evan said and looked at Maria. "Yes, that's it." The woman agreed with him. They sat for a while longer, talking about everything. Evan and Maria remembered some moments from their childhood, and then he got ready to leave. "I'll walk him out." She got up from her seat. "Okay," he smiled. At the entrance where they went together, they stood for a while, and then he went to his room. "Tomorrow I'll meet you," he promised Maria. "Goodbye." He stood all happy outside his house. Evan and Maria started dating. They both laughed about it. because as former schoolboys they wandered around the park, holding hands and kissing. "Should we get married?" Evan asking to the wedding, Evan told her. "Thank you, then we'll be friends," Emma decided for everyone. And indeed, the three people became friends. Maria was rarely at home now. She was at Evan's, or the three of them would meet somewhere. "Aren't you going to buy a dress?" Emma was surprised when Maria said that she would wear a normal dress for the wedding. "Why should I? I think it's a waste of money," Maria replied. They decided not to organize a lavish celebration, to invite a few people, and then go to a restaurant to celebrate. Too bad Emma wouldn't do that. "It's okay, Evan and I are fine." Maria was happy to have a friend. "I'm so worried," the mother said to Maria. "Why are you?" "It's my wedding." "And why worry?" Maria stood in front of the mirror, dancing, and of course, shouts of bitterness. The newlyweds returned home at night. Evan insisted that Maria move in with him on the day of the wedding. "I don't have any stuff." She stood in her dress, not sure what to do. "That's okay. Here, take that shirt." He smiled good-naturedly. "Okay," agreed the wife. They walked to the bedroom. Evan had a large bed there. It wasn't the first time Maria had been here, but it was always like the first time. "I love you," her husband whispered in her ear. "And I you." She couldn't believe it was going to work out so quickly. She listened to herself and realized that this was really true love. Family life brought many joys. Every night, Evan would meet his wife after work. They would go to the store and then straight home. There, Maria liked to cook, and her husband would just sit next to her, at which point they would talk. "Why am I so happy?" Maria often asked. "I don't know. You don't even realize how happy I am," he hugged his wife. Emma was a frequent guest in their home. She loved to come over, stay for long periods of time, until late at night. All the while, the three of them reminisced about their youth. "I bought 3 vouchers to the sanatorium. A man came home one day." "Why 3? Maria didn't understand. "I want Emma to come with us, so that you are not bored." He spoke openly. His wife realized that he was not deceiving her. The next day, she called her friend, telling her what a surprise her husband had arranged for them. "Wow, I have never been in sanatoriums," amazed that. "Well and go." Maria was glad that her friend appreciated the deed of her husband. Started packing for the trip. "I do not even know what to take with me," lost Maria, when in front of her stood already open suitcase. "I don't think you'll need a lot of things in there." Her husband looked in her closet. "Yes, I agree with you." She took only the essentials. They met Emma at the train station with 12 hours of driving ahead of them. "It's your wedding anniversary," Emma reminded them. "I've been preparing for this moment, so we can celebrate the day in a small circle." He took his wife's hand in his. "What a nice couple you two are," Emma sighed. 5 years together, that's not just for you." The man smiled. They arrived where they wanted to go. They were given 2 rooms. Evan and Maria lived in one and Emma in the other. Every day there was some kind of treatments. That was part of the plans too. And in the evening, they would go to an event. Emma was hoping to meet someone, but it wasn't working out. "Don't you like that one over there?" Maria pointed at the man standing against the wall. "I don't know. I'm not going to approach him myself," blushed her friend. After the event, the dancing started, and the friends stood there until Evan was gone. But then he came back and asked his wife to dance. Emma stood there for a while and then decided to go for it. "Hello," she approached the man. "Hi," he replied cheerfully. "I see you standing alone. Bored, maybe we can dance?" Everything was shaking inside, but she overcame it. "Why not?" He offered her his hand. Emma couldn't believe she could do that. "My name is Ramel, what's yours?" Spoke in her ear her partner, because the music was playing too loud to talk just like that. "Emma," she stood up on her toes so he could hear. Pleased, they continued to move to the music. After dancing, the company, which already consisted of 4 people, went to the bar. "I am so pleased that you invited me," said Ramel. "No, it's okay. It's probably boring alone," Evan smiled at him. "And don't tell me," nodded the new acquaintance. That evening they had a good rest, and then went to their rooms. Maria saw that Ramel was walking towards where Emma lived. She only smiled. In the morning, when they were at breakfast, a man came up to Evan and Maria and handed them something. "What is it?" the husband asked as his wife unfolded the paper. "I don't know. I have a counseling appointment." She looked at him fearfully. "What was that for?" The man couldn't understand. He was worried about his wife. Ramel and Emma were still not at breakfast. One could only be happy for his friend. Maria, though she was worried, she needed to go to the doctor's again. She stepped over the threshold. At the table sat a man in a white coat. "Hello, I was handed this today." She put a sheet in front of him. "Yes, I was expecting you." He looked her in the eye. "Is there something wrong with me?" She got even more agitated. "I can't answer you with 100% accuracy, but..." He stopped talking and turned to the window. "What is it? Am I sick?" Maria was already nervous. "Most likely, after all the examinations, I can tell you that in all probability you have a tumor, but this can only be determined by MRI. He could not look her in the eye. Maria's eyes went black. How could that be? She felt fine. There were times when she felt dizzy and achy, but she put it down to fatigue. "Thank you." She just didn't know what to say in those cases. "I have a referral for you right here. You need to go through it as soon as you get back from here." And as soon as possible, he handed her the paper. Thanking him again, she headed for the door. "Maria, what's wrong with you? Are you all pale?" Evan ran up to her. "Here." She showed him the report and the referral. "What? How could this happen?" Evan twirled the paper in his hands and ran his eyes over the lines. "I can't understand it myself," she cried. "Don't get upset. I'll always be there for you." He pulled her close to him. There was no mood to rest further, and they informed their friend about it. "Oh, and you know, Ramel and I are also going to leave," she blushed. "How good." Maria was happy once again for her friend. They all went to the train station together, and to the city where everyone lived. It turned out that Emma's new acquaintance had agreed to go to her place. Maria asked Evan not to say anything to Emma yet. Now she would go through all the procedures, and only then, when everything was clear, to inform. He agreed and didn't argue. They didn't say anything to her mother either, so she wouldn't be nervous. After the MRI and all the tests, the neurologist confirmed that Maria had a mass in her head. This was not something that could just go away. After the MRI and all the tests, the neurologist confirmed that Maria had a mass in her head. It couldn't just go away. She cried. Evan soothed her. That evening they gathered at their home. Her mother, Ramel, and Emma came. "Maria is seriously ill. She needs an operation." Evan took the liberty to say, "Why didn't you say anything?" The mother jumped up from her seat and approached her daughter. "We wanted to be sure of everything first," Evan admitted. "When is the surgery?" Emma was upset. "In 2 weeks, the man answered. "Maria, be strong. We are all by your side," took her friend's hand. But this was not something that could just be accepted. Maria was admitted to the ward. She had to take a lot of tests. She was being prepped for surgery. Evan was at his wife's bedside most of the time. "Why are you torturing yourself?" His wife felt sorry for him. "Can I come in?" "She's already crossed the threshold." "Of course, come in." He stepped aside. "Are you here to see Maria?" She sat down on the ottoman. "Yes. Are you with me?" He was putting on his shoes. Of course, the woman sighed heavily. "Did something happen to you?" He looked at Emma. Ramel left. She was ready to cry. "What do you mean?" "Why, things were just starting to work out." Evan was surprised. "I don't know." Emma stood up. She walked over to Evan and hugged him. "Let's go." He just gave her a little hug. They walked outside. got into a cab and drove to the hospital. It had been 2 weeks since the surgery. The doctor said that Maria was improving quickly and would be discharged soon. Evan and Emma had not left her without attention. The car mom, after finding out what happened to her daughter, got sick. Now his son-in-law had to go to her place too. She had to buy a car. She couldn't get a cab. He sat down next to her. On credit. She understood. Yes, he nodded. Good. Her spouse didn't mind. That was it. And now Evan was picking out what would work for them. Do you want me to help you? Emma came to his rescue. Do you know anything about cars? He was surprised. No, but just a little support wouldn't hurt. She looked at him and smiled. The car was bought. Now you didn't have to worry about what to drive. Are you sure you want to go out to work? Maria was asked by her husband. Yes, she nodded. Then I'll drive you every morning. He walked over and kissed her on the cheek. It was a deal. She was glad it was all behind her, and now she could start over. Mom never recovered from the blow. Maria was at her house every night now. She was afraid that there would be a sad outcome. In the evening, the three of them could get together again at Evan and Maria's apartment. And again the talking, the laughing, and the other. Emma, hey, did Evan call you? Maria dialed her friend's number once. No, why do you ask? I could hear her getting agitated. He's never been this late. Maria looked at her watch. Maybe something happened. She made long pauses between words. I don't know. I had to go to my mom's. But she couldn't until Evan got here. He didn't show up until the night before. Maria didn't sleep. She immediately ran out into the hallway. There was a cast on her husband's arm. His head was bandaged. What happened? She approached him and immediately recoiled. She smelled alcoholic odor. Maria, I'm sorry. He sat down. Evan, have you been drinking? She didn't yell. She spoke calmly. I wrecked the car. He kept his head down. The hell with it. The car. What's wrong with you? She sat down in front of him. I don't know. He shook his head. Okay, let's go to bed. You'll tell me all about it tomorrow. She took his healthy hand and led him into the bedroom. Sorry, he walked and whispered the word. In the morning, Maria went to her mother's house first thing in the morning. That was bad. The daughter realized that during the night she had a seizure. The woman did not speak. She called an ambulance. They came, hospitalized her, upset, crying, worried. You okay? Husband still felt guilty. Fine, she didn't look at him. I'm sorry, he whispered again. What are you always apologizing for? She couldn't understand it. How are we going to pay off the loan now? He pointed to his arm. He was on sick leave. We'll manage somehow, she was sure of it. The woman spared no effort and took another job. Now in the evening, she washed one of the offices in their city. Tired. Her husband asked her at home, what do you think? She'd just collapse on the couch from exhaustion. Everything will be fine, Evan promised her. In the evening, the hospital called to tell her that her mother was in a very bad condition. Maria went there. Mommy, she sat and cried at her bedside. Forgive me, daughter. She closed her eyes. No, cried Maria. She did not realize what a black streak had begun in her life. It had been 3 years since the surgery, but nothing could ever get better. First Evan, then her mom. What else was there to look forward to? Lately, tears could often be seen in Maria's eyes. Evan, where are you? Mom's gone, she called her husband. I'll be there soon. He was drunk again. Good. His wife believed and waited for him. He'd come back, but there was nothing he could do. Maria hired people, or if she could, she did it herself. Emma, can you come? She asked her friend. Of course, she happily agreed. They would sit in the kitchen, talk, and then Emma would go home. Why does everything happen like this in life? The woman asked her colleagues at work. Why is it like this? One of them felt sorry for her. I don't know, everything is wrong. The family is cracking at the seams, Maria cried. Perhaps your husband has not coped with the tasks that life has imposed on him, she speculated. I don't know. That's why she asked, because she couldn't understand anything. All right, calm down. Everything will be all right, the girls and women assured her. But it wasn't getting better. Maria realized that something was going on in their family life. Evan was now working long hours, as if he didn't want to come home to his sick wife. Emma was also becoming distant, but Maria didn't connect the two events. She trusted her husband unconditionally. Where have you been? She never shouted, she just asked. At work, he would go to bed and immediately fall asleep. Emma had been an unsociable child since childhood. She never socialized with anyone, always alone. Mommy, where's Daddy? The girl used to ask him when she was little. I don't know. The daughter saw her mom often crying. She felt sorry for her. She couldn't understand what was going on. They lived in a big house outside the city. Emma went to a private kindergarten and then to a prestigious school. Her father was not the last man in the town where they lived. Can I go for a walk? The girl liked to go out into the courtyard of the house and spend a lot of time there. Even when she was alone, she liked it. When she was in 7th grade, she heard her parents arguing, but she didn't pay any attention to it. Emma, get ready, he's kicking us out, her mother shouted loudly. Why? The girl looked at her father. If you leave now, you will never come back, gave an ultimatum to the one. Fuck you, the woman hissed. Mom, what's going on? I don't want to go anywhere. Emma was shocked. Where would they go now? Let's go to grandmother, nothing, and there we will live. The woman was sure that her husband would follow her. But it did not happen. So they had to stay in a simple one-room apartment on the outskirts. Emma, you'll have to go to another school, the woman told her. I don't want to. I had friends there, the girl cried. I don't want to hear anything. That's the way it is. The mom freaked out. She had no choice but to take her backpack and go to a place where there were a lot of people she didn't know. Oh, look, a new girl immediately drew attention to Emma. She was kind of flattered at first, but then she realized she was being bullied. Don't pay attention, they are just jealous, said her mother in the evening to the girl who was in tears. I don't want to study there. Take me back to my school. Emma couldn't help herself. And I can't do that. Her mother had already regretted 100 times what she had done in the heat of the moment. Then I won't study at all. Emma didn't know how else to explain to her mother that she was unhappy there. From that moment on, she stopped socializing with anyone. She sat alone at her desk, always going everywhere alone. But even though the girl didn't bother anyone, she still got teased with words. Look at her dress, probably kosher, said the girls in the back. Of course, no one could afford it, and Emma wore beautiful and expensive clothes. She had never made friends with anyone in her 2 years at school, only hated everyone more. Evan, can I ask you something? She approached the young man when they were in 9th grade. What? He turned to her and then looked at the other students. Those were waiting to see how the guy would react, and it didn't take him long. I need help in algebra, and you understand, honestly, it was just an excuse. Emma liked the boy and didn't know how to approach him. Back off, he said defiantly then and turned away. So she cried all night, left home for school the next day, but never showed up. Are you skipping school? Her mom yelled at her at home when she got a call from her class teacher. I cannot go there. They hate me, again wailed girl. There's only nothing left. Be patient. The woman couldn't understand it. The grandmother only looked at all this and sighed. After the vacation, Emma came to this class again. At home, she was assured that everyone would become more mature and there would be no more attacks, but nothing changed. Emma kept chasing after Evan. She hoped he'd reciprocate, but he just turned his nose up at her. And now, as luck would have it, it's date night, and she's invited. If Evan's there, I'll go with him, she told her reflection in the mirror. Emma prepared for this day thoroughly, even had to go to the beautician's. And so it came, that long-awaited day. She couldn't get a cab for a long time, so she was late. Hello, everyone. I wanted to appear casual. Hello, many looked at Emma with admiration, but that was replaced by envy again. In her head, Emma imagined how she would walk into the hall. Everyone would gasp, and Evan would go crazy when he saw her and immediately wish he had chosen her. But that didn't happen. He was already sitting with Maria. Then Emma was not confused and sat down at their table. They drank wine to the meeting. And then Emma started following the couple. She saw them going to the park and turned a corner as if it were a chance encounter. When she met Ramel at the sanatorium, she fell behind the couple for a while. She had her own life now, and when he'd left, she'd immediately switched back. Evan, let me help. He was making something for Maria. Sure enough, he led her over to the stove. She kept the porridge from burning, stirring it, feeling him standing next to her. It had taken a long time to get Evan's attention, but now there were no friends around who could say anything bad to him, and he wasn't the same age. And so, when Maria was fully recovered, and Emma was visiting them, that's when everything happened for the first time. Maria, hello, a friend called that evening. Hello. She was surprised to hear from her. Is Evan home? Emma asked. No, he hadn't gotten home from work yet, Maria said honestly. Okay, I'm sorry to bother you, Maria said in an innocent voice. It's okay, what did you want? Maria suddenly realized. He promised to give me advice on work, the woman lied. Okay, I'll tell him you called. Maria hung up. Emma immediately dialed another number. Hi, she said, as sexily as possible. Hi, Evan was on his way home. Listen, could you come over? The door fell off. I need to take a look. Emma could say anything to get him to come over. Okay, I'm going home now. I'll be right there. He was off. Emma quickly started setting the table. There was a lot of stuff on the table, of course. Alcohol was also present. Here I am. He stood on the doorstep. Come in. She closed the door behind him. So, where's the breakdown? He looked around. No, you're from work. So get to the table first, she commanded. Okay, I'm hungry as a wolf. Evan rubbed his hands together. Come on, she led him into the room. Wow, it's a feast in here. He could see the food on the table. All right, sit down and let's get started. She put his plate first, then hers. She poured wine for herself and something stronger for him. I'm driving, he refused. It's okay. You can leave the car here and pick it up tomorrow, the hostess insisted. She persuaded him. The man had long wanted to relax, but first Maria's illness and then other problems prevented him from doing so. They had a drink, and then another. Emma sat closer. She was stroking Evan's arm, telling him something. Okay, show me where your broken door is. He stood up. Let's go. She stepped out into the hallway, beckoning him to follow her. When they were near the bathroom, Evan opened it, looked to see that the doors were okay, turned to Emma, and she was already standing there in her beautiful lingerie, looking seductively at the man. Emma, he was amazed. Evan, she walked toward the bedroom. Where are you going? He was still in shock. Come here, she called out to him. I can't, I have Maria, he said, but he followed her. Your Maria is not going anywhere. She came very close to him, hugged him, and brought her face close. Just as she did so, Evan began to kiss her greedily. He was so bored without a woman's caress. Maria, while she was sick, understandably did nothing, and then kept saying to be careful. After that, they ended up in bed. Emma, what have we done to you? Evan only realized it now. What did we do? She smiled, lying on the man's chest. You can't do that. We're the two people closest to her. It was embarrassing. Come on, she kissed his cheek. After that, they stood up and headed back to the room again. Evan felt guilty. He poured himself another, and then another. Emma had her arms wrapped around his neck the whole time, whispering tender words. She knew that now she wouldn't let this man go anywhere. And then, in such a state, The man got behind the wheel, lost control, and had an accident. After that, Emma couldn't pass up a chance not to talk to Evan. She knew that Maria was often away from home, so she went to Evan's house herself. At first, he was embarrassed, reluctant, refused. But then he realized that there was nothing wrong with it, and they began to meet Emma all the time. "Hi, sweetheart." Emma met a man at her house. "Hi, darling." They no longer wasted time at the table, but went straight to the bedroom. And then he would come home. It was embarrassing, but he couldn't help it. Evan was now in love with two women at once. "Evan, you won't come again." Maria called him. She understood everything for a long time, but she didn't say anything. She worked, got tired, came home, cooked dinner, and then went to bed, more often alone than with her husband. She understood that he was suffering. He was not comfortable living the life she wanted. "Evan, I need you right away," Emma called him one day. "I'll be right there." There was a stirring inside. "Okay, hurry up," she hung up. He couldn't call for a car for a long time. And then, while he was driving, he was exhausted. He didn't understand what could have happened to Emma. He went up to the floor with an arrow and knocked. Suddenly, the thought crossed his mind. What if Maria was waiting for him here? She'd found out, and now she'd blame him, and he was afraid. Finally, Emma opened the door for him. She was in silk underwear, as usual. "What's wrong? Why the urgency?" He didn't understand. "Come on, you'll find out." She let him in. Evan walked down the corridor. It seemed that now they would enter the hall and Maria would be there. But no, there was no one there. "Ugh," Evan exhaled. "Why are you so tense?" laughed the woman. "Nothing, just," he waited for what she was going to tell him. "Here," she handed him something. "What is it?" He held the cardboard rectangle in his hands. "Open it," she asked him. "And what?" He pulled out a narrow strip of cardboard. "Evan, how can you live all these years and not know the basics?" she sighed. "Excuse me, and try to explain," he said jokingly. "I'm pregnant." She sat on his lap. "What? How is that possible?" His eyes became like two saucers. "Imagine, and so it happens in life," laughed Emma. "And what do you want from me?" "I'll recognize the child. I'll do anything you say." Evan dreamed about it for years. "Are you crazy? How old am I? Think about it." She rolled. "You're saying," he didn't finish. "Yes, I will go for an abortion. I just wanted to warn you, so that you will not say later that I cheated." She kissed the man she loved. "What happened?" He was ready to cry. "There's nothing to be sorry for. You should have paid attention to me earlier, and I was coming on to you," she chided him. Well, he could understand Emma too, after all age. After that, the man fell into depression. Maria saw that with her husband something is wrong, but she didn't pester him with these questions. She knew that sometimes a man wanted to be alone, to sort himself out. One day, Maria was coming home from work, and in the mailbox she saw a letter sticking straight out. She went into the apartment, opened it. "I wonder who writes letters these days," she muttered aloud. There were only a few lines inside. It was written by some aunt of her mother's. She said there was a house in the village, no one to leave it to, so it was going to her. What? She was amazed. She even wanted to laugh. "Hello." She called the phone number on the envelope. The one on the envelope. A young man with a pleasant voice answered. "I got a letter saying I own a house," she introduced herself. "Yes, come, we will discuss everything with you," said the voice in the receiver. Marie had wanted to get away for a long time. Evan, she waited for him today. She didn't go to bed. "Oh, you scared him. Why are you sitting here in the dark?" He jumped. "Listen, I have to leave early tomorrow morning," she said. "Where to?" He didn't understand, because his wife never went anywhere. "I want to go to the temple to pray." She did not look into his eyes, although there was almost no untruth in it. Where she was going was indeed a holy place where many people came. "Okay, I won't keep you. Sorry I can't accompany you." Evan thought to himself, just as Emma was about to have an abortion, She would need his attention. In the morning, Maria woke up, gathered some papers, and drove off. It didn't take long to get there, and here she was standing in the waiting room. "Hello, come in." The young man was already waiting for her. "Here is the letter." She put it on the table in front of him. "Yes, indeed, I remember this woman. I don't know what happened in your family, but it so happened that there was no one left to inherit it." "So it's true, Ben." She couldn't believe the miracle. "Yes, and now you're the owner of this very house." They signed all the papers. Maria wasn't in a hurry to get home. She wanted to stop by the village and see what she'd gotten. The bus was slow, dusty and stuffy. But when they approached the village, they saw an unusual expanse of land, which was very beautiful. "Here we are," said the driver when he stopped. The woman was curious about everything. She had never been here, and it seemed that she had. She walked along the side of the road, turned down an alley. A house stood in front of her. Yes, it was old, but it was solid. "Hello, and you must be Maria," a man approached her. "And my name is Oliver. I'm watching him while no one is around." He pointed to the house. "Thank you," Maria smiled. "It's okay," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Here is my number. If anything, contact me." He handed her a piece of paper with even numbers and a key to the house. After that, the woman could not resist and went inside. The room was spacious and beautiful. Here, as in old movies, in the corner stood icons. On the floor mats, there was a stove. Could this be where my relatives lived? She ran her hand along the wall. Afterward, she sat down, looked around some more. She had to get ready to go home. She might not catch the last bus. "Maria," Oliver ran after her. "Yes," she looked back. "When do you expect next time?" he asked. "I don't know, maybe tomorrow or maybe not at all." She couldn't promise because she wasn't sure of anything. "Okay, then call her." He finally caught his breath. Maria was riding in the bus. She realized that it was happiness to get a house from some unknown relatives, but at the same time it was uncomfortable. While she was traveling, Emma still went to the hospital. Now she was at home, and Evan was next to her. "Does it hurt?" he kept asking. "It's fine." Emma wrinkled her nose. She didn't want him to see her the way she was now. Maria arrived home. Evan was not there, as he had been many times. She didn't get upset. She went to the kitchen and started cooking. "Maria, are you home?" He was surprised when he entered the apartment. "Yes, I just arrived," she answered. "Good. I'm free too." He came to her kitchen. As they sat there, she told him the story of the house. It was incredible. "Wow, you're lucky." He walked over to her. Maria could clearly smell the perfume Emma was wearing. "When was the last time you saw Emma?" she asked Evan. "Yesterday." "Why?" The man tensed. "No, I just asked her if she had been away for a long time," Maria lied. She just wanted to see if her husband was lying to her or not. It was very upsetting, but what to do in such a situation? She did not know exactly that, and with assumptions to make a scandal, did not want to. "Nothing at all, just asked." She turned away to the stove. Several years passed. One morning, Marie felt so bad that she couldn't even get out of bed. "What's wrong?" Evan was scared. "It's nothing, you go. And if you need it, I'll call an ambulance myself." She looked and smiled. "Are you sure?" He wanted to help. "Yeah, goodbye." The woman hugged her husband. Evan went to work. He knew Emma was waiting for him tonight, but he couldn't let his wife down and leave her. "Are you coming over?" She called him before lunch. "You know, Marie was sick this morning, and I'm worried about her," Evan admitted. "Couldn't you call an ambulance?" Emma didn't understand. He offered. She said she'd do it herself. He didn't want to hurt that woman too. "I don't know anything tonight. I'll wait for you at my place." She hung up. Evan looked in front of him. He didn't understand what he should do now. And in the middle of the day, everything resolved itself. "Evan, hello." Maria spoke, breathing heavily. "What's wrong? Where are you?" He began to worry. My head hurt so much that I called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital, she mumbled. Should I come? He didn't know how to behave. If only tomorrow, she disconnected. Okay, bye, was all he had time to say, but he wasn't sure if his wife heard it. In the evening, he arrived home, called Emma to come to him. She didn't keep him waiting. An hour later, the woman was at his place. What are we doing to you? Evan said it every time, but he couldn't stop when he saw Emma. Get over it already. You chose this path yourself. She just kissed him and laughed. They were good together. In the morning, a doctor came into Masha's room. You had an MRI yesterday, he told her. Yes, she realized. He wouldn't have been silent for so long if everything was okay. We found a new mass on you. He looked at the papers he held in his hands. Is it bad? She asked, even though she realized it herself. We need to do all the tests again, and then we'll determine everything, he told her. Good, she agreed. Then nothing is required of you. The nurses and doctors will do everything themselves. He smiled and left the room. Maria lay there, tears flowing from her eyes. Why exactly she had to go through all this? She knew from the way she felt that something was definitely in her head. She didn't even need any tests. Hello, a young girl entered the room. She approached Maria, did some manipulations, and then started drawing blood. After that, other doctors came in, attached some apparatus. When everything was done, the doctor came to the woman again. Can I ask you something? She looked at him. Yes, of course, he turned to her. If my husband comes, don't tell him anything. She looked at him pleadingly. He must know. The doctor couldn't understand. No, let him live. Why should he have a crippled wife? She begged. All right, as you say. He nodded and left the office. Evan was still gone. He was working at this point, and then vacationing with Emma at his house. Hi, Maria called him. Hello, darling, he thought. He hadn't called her in a while. Listen, I'm being transferred to a clinic in another city, she lied to him. Why didn't you call me? The man's heart was pounding. I didn't want to bother you. It's no big deal. It's just a simple checkup. She was lying through her teeth. Okay, but promise me that when you need to, you'll definitely call me. Sure, she smiled. After all the tests, the doctor told Maria that she could go home temporarily because the results would be coming in. This was both happy news and at the same time, not so happy news. Maria slept here tonight and only went home the next day. It was evening. She saw Emma's car parked outside their house, but the lights in the windows were not on. So the woman sat down on a bench and waited for the windows to light up. As soon as they did, she went up to the apartment. Hi, she walked into the hallway. Maria, I'm just here to help Evan with dinner. Emma grabbed a knife and started cutting something. Oh, thank you so much for helping out so much. Maria smiled, pretending everything was fine. She walked into the room. Her friend and husband were running around. Why are you so worried? I'm fine. Otherwise, they would have left me in the hospital. She didn't look at them. Maria, do you need anything? Evan wouldn't calm down. Nothing, she nodded. All right, I'll go then, Emma said. Yeah, go ahead. Bye, see you later. Evan saw her off. I have to go to the hospital again soon. She didn't make eye contact with her husband. I'm always here for you, he hugged her. Mary didn't feel bad. On the contrary, she knew she was leaving her husband in good hands. She went to the clinic again. The tests showed everything that Maria herself had assumed. Now she had to decide whether she needed the operation or not. Tell me, what will happen if I don't have this operation? Maria asked the doctor. He looked at her and did not believe that she would decide to do it and refuse the surgery. Well, I have to think about it. She braced herself, but as soon as the doctor left the room, tears came out of her eyes. As she lay there, she realized she wasn't going to do anything else. Why, if in a few years everything could reappear again? And again hospital, surgery. And if they damaged something, then she would be brought back to Evan, and he wouldn't be able to keep her. She'd ruin his whole life, and Maria loved her husband so much she couldn't let him do that. She didn't want him to take care of her for years. I made a decision. She walked into the surgeon's office. "And what have you decided?" He folded his arms. "I'm not ready to go into surgery." She lowered her eyes. "Are you sure? Because it could be very damaging to your body." He was ashamed to look at her too. "It's my decision. I can sign any waivers." She sat down at the table across from him. "Okay, but if you change your mind suddenly, we are always waiting for you." He gave her a paper and pen for her to write what he would dictate to her. Maria gathered her things and walked out of the hospital. She needed to go home, but didn't really want to. Maria realized that Evan was there with Emma. No, she wasn't offended or anything. She just didn't want to get in their way. "Hello, Sarah." Maria decided to call her older coworker. "Hi, Maria." She was glad to hear from her. "How are you doing?" She started from afar. "Say what you wanted to say already." The woman was a bit aware of her business. She shared it with her all the time. "You see, I have such a delicate situation." Began and again, Maria was silent. "Okay, come to my place, we'll talk." The woman hung up the phone and waited for her friend. Maria arrived quickly. She entered the apartment. She was immediately led into the kitchen, where tea was poured and there was a cake. "How nice of you to let me come," thanked Sarah. "What are you saying?" "It's always a pleasure." The woman sat down and offered to do the same to Maria. They sat at the table, both silent. "I'm sorry to drag you into this." The guest tilted her head and cried. "Come on, Maria." Sarah hugged her. After that, she began to tell her what had happened. At the end, both of them were crying. "How do you deal with all this alone?" The woman sobbed. She felt sorry for the young woman, and God only knows how much she had to endure. "I should probably go." Maria started to get up. "No, you'll sleep at my place tonight and go tomorrow," Sarah insisted. "Would that be convenient?" Maria wasn't quite calmed down yet. "It's all right." She went into the room and brought a robe for the guest. "Say, and your husband does not call you at all, just like that, took and threw you out of his life?" asked the woman when they had already laid down. "I do not condemn him for this." "You asked." Marie did not want to talk about it. She didn't think about it yet. She was relieved. In the morning they woke up, had breakfast, drank coffee. Maria was about to leave. "You'll be here in a minute." "Are the two of them there?" Sarah looked at her. "I hope they're both at work by now," she said. "Can't you wait until the evening, or at least later?" The hospitable hostess didn't want to let her go. Good. Marie didn't want to leave right now, but when evening came, she couldn't wait any longer, packed up and walked to her house. Emma's car was back in the driveway. Maria looked up at the windows. The lights were on, so it was safe to go in. She went up to the floor, opened the doors and walked in. There was no one in the kitchen. She thought Evan and Emma were in the hall, so she went there. And there they were, lying on the disassembled couch. Ouch, Maria even sat down. This was something she hadn't expected to see. Even though she had thought about it, she didn't imagine she would ever see it. Maria, her husband, immediately jumped up. He covered himself with a sheet. And Emma was lying there. She didn't even think of getting up. "Excuse me." The wife went to the kitchen so she wouldn't have to watch all this. There she put the kettle on. She didn't want this to be revealed so quickly. At this time, Evan and Emma got up and got dressed. "And what are you horny for, hatching?" She glared defiantly at the one she called friend. "Emma, don't be like that." Maria wanted to calm her down. "What? You thought you found a good man?" She sat down. "Evan, tell her to calm down." She tried to find support from her husband. "No, honey, he's mine." She wagged her finger at Maria. "Hear me out." Maria raised her voice. "What can you say? Do you know how many years we've been together?" Emma said in the same raised voice. "I know," Maria said calmly. "How?" Both of them were stunned and looked at each other. Emma, Calm down. Evan looked at her sternly. You too. Maria touched his arm. They sat together, eyes flapping as the landlady told them how she herself had pushed her friend towards her husband, how she had waited for the light to come on. You knew everything and you kept silent? The husband was astonished. What was I supposed to say? I'm leaving. She went to her room to pack her things. Where to? The man didn't understand. It doesn't matter anymore. You found yourself a beautiful woman. Now I'm not afraid to leave you. Maria calmly folded her few things. I don't get it. How could you push me towards him? Emma looked at Evan and Maria. It's all in the past now. I don't hold a grudge against anyone. Stay and live happily ever after. You can file for divorce. They will divorce us without our presence. I don't mind. Emma, you be happy. Maria went to the door. I'm not letting you go anywhere. Her husband came up to her and took her hand. Thank you. You've been a good husband. She didn't want to cry, but a tear rolled down her cheek. Maria, now and Emma got up and walked over to them. Sorry for being such a fool. It wasn't anyone's fault. She realized that tears were coming out of her eyes, so she quickly opened the door and left the apartment. Did you get anything? Emma looked at Evan. No, he went back to the kitchen, sat down on a chair, put his arms around his head and cried. What's wrong with you? Emma sat down next to him. As I imagined that she knew all this, kept silent, never said anything, he could not understand and accept it. And now you're going to look for her and bring her back. That's what Emma was most afraid of. I'll call tomorrow, he promised. The woman stayed that day at Evans. Now there was no need to hide from anyone, to hide something. Maria came to the nursing home. She realized that they would look at her as if she were crazy, but she couldn't think of anything else. Hello, I want to get a job with you, she said to the girl who met her. She needed a referral or a statement from a relative. For all the time she had been working here, it was the first time that a person came and asked for a job. Then Maria called Sarah. She told her the same thing. She didn't believe her, but now it's confirmed that it's true. Don't worry, Maria, I'll take care of it, the woman promised her. She really agreed with someone, and in 2 hours Maria had her own room. Why did such a young woman have to come here? The social worker who'd brought the laundry asked her. It's my decision, and I'm not going to discuss it with anyone or change it. She was firm in her intentions. Okay, but there are special boarding houses where people like you live. People there receive medical treatment, the girl reasoned. She felt very sorry for this woman, who was left alone at such a young age. No need to feel sorry for me, but Maria heard about the sanatorium. In the evening, the woman called her doctor, with whom she had communicated not so long ago. She found out everything from him. He confirmed that in fact, there is such a thing, but it doesn't come cheap. Can you write a referral? She asked him. Do you have the money? He asked. Yes, she knew she had enough on deposit. It was left over from the sale of her mother's apartment. Then she had to do it to pay off the loan. Welcome, it was not difficult for him, especially since the diagnosis was not easy. Maria herself does not know why, but she was so happy. She arrived at the place where she was already waited for, paid for the accommodation. The ward was many times different from the one she had been in the first time. There were a lot of people here, young and old, all with some kind of health problem. Hello. An old man sat down on the bench. Good morning. She liked to go out right after breakfast, to walk and breathe the fresh air. How do you like it here? He made conversation. Very well, and that was true. And I think so too, he sat, looking out into the distance. Maria wondered how Evan was doing, what he and Emma were doing. It was sad to think about, but the thoughts were clinging to each other. Have you tried going to church? The man asked her. Why? She turned to the old man. Neither she nor her mom had ever done that. I guess even for reassurance, he never turned to her like that. Maria thought about it for a moment. Should we really go and pray? In our temple recently brought an icon, That's where you need to go, he said quietly. Thank you. For some reason, tears came to Maria's eyes. She couldn't sit here any longer. I'm not at all for nothing. After Matrona worship, he stood up and went down the path. From that moment, Maria could not sleep. She wanted to choose a time to go to that very temple, to see and pray to the shrine. When she learned that the icon would soon be taken away, she put aside all doubts and deeds and headed there. Hello. She approached the woman in all black. Come in. She showed her to the doors of the temple. I don't know anything at all. Maria asked for more help. Then the woman led her inside. There they bought candles and went to the shrine. Maria only looked at the icon. She immediately became dizzy. She did not know how to pray, but the one who'd brought her here told her to speak her mind. Street Matryonushka, Maria knelt down in front of the icon. She began to ask first for Evan, Emma, and then she said to herself. Tears rolled from her eyes, and her soul felt light and warm. It seemed as if those tears were cleansing her. How was it? The same woman who had met her at the entrance asked her. I don't know, as if it had turned outward, Maria said. Come back tomorrow, she'll still be here, the woman advised her. Okay, Maria promised. Even if she hadn't suggested it, she would have come anyway. I see you did. The same grandfather approached her. Yes, thank you very much. She sat on the bench with him again. From that moment, Maria began to believe. She did not understand why her mother had not taken her to church before, had not baptized her. Everything was good here. The nature, the staff. But the worst was the loneliness. When evening came and Maria sat alone in her room, all sorts of things came into her head. She wished someone would come to visit her, but there was no one. She didn't want to call. Are you going out tonight? An old man came to see her. Are you going that way? She turned to him. Yes, he nodded affirmatively. Then I'm coming with you. Marie liked the smell of incense, the candles burning, the quiet songs being sung, and the sound of prayer was like nothing else. Back, they usually walked together, silent. Just Maria would go to her room and go to bed. Maria, she saw Sarah heading towards her. How are you here, she wondered. I couldn't help but come, they hugged. You know. And Maria started talking about the church, about Matrona, and everything else. I see that you are not bored here at all, smiled the older friend. Everything is fine, don't worry about me, was calm Maria. And the illness? Sarah was very interested in this question. I do not know, to be honest. No one says anything, and I do not ask. How much is left? So much is left. Maria turned away. What are you saying, friend? Sarah almost cried. I don't know. I started going to church. I'm so relieved now, she admitted to her older friend. Oh, I don't know. You're burying your own life. The woman continued to lament. What are you talking about? There is life here too. I just don't want to cause trouble to those who will live next to me, she said and turned away. She so wanted someone to come to her, but not with such words. Why would she want to hurt her soul? What about Ivan? Sarah asked. Nothing. He filed for divorce. Everything must be going well. That was not an interesting topic for Maria either. It's clear you've got away from everyone. You should become a nun, said the woman with a chuckle. Why? It's an idea, Maria thought. No, I don't mean that. Sarah was afraid that now her friend would go to church. Do you know how nice it is there? Maria stopped talking. They sat there until the evening, talking and arguing, and then Sarah left. Maria asked her not to come again. It wouldn't do any good. All right, I don't know what this hermitage will do for you. The woman seemed offended. She left, and Maria was left alone again. Often she sat at the window and watched the rain and the falling leaves. Today it was just like that. There was practically no one on the street, but it was still interesting to watch. Maria noticed some man. He was walking along the courtyard, approached everyone, shook hands, asked something. She even wondered what he wanted, or just a sick man who couldn't find someone or something. Are you busy? Her old acquaintance knocked and looked in the door. No, she didn't want to look away from the window. She wanted to see where the man would go, but she didn't want to disrespect her guest. May I? He came in, took off his shoes at the very threshold and went on. Have you been on the street? Maria asked him and immediately thought that she didn't even know his name. But since she hadn't thought about it before, it was inconvenient to ask now. Yes, I went out. The air is so fresh before the rain, he said with a strange expression. Interesting, never heard that before. She looked at him, then turned back to the window. The man was quite close. Marie thought she had even seen him somewhere. But there are so many people here. It's not strange that she could have just gotten confused. What are you looking at? He came to the glass too and took a look. I don't know, I was just looking out into the yard, and there's a strange man, fumbling about, recognizing something. She pointed at him. Yes, in this weather I would only go for a walk, the man grinned. Would you like some tea? Maria asked the guest. I wouldn't say no, he said honestly. Now she put the kettle on. After that they sat down at the table. Hot steam was coming from the cups. They enjoyed a strong, fragrant drink. And who said it was bad here? The guest looked out the window again. I didn't say that, Maria grinned. She followed the man's gaze and saw that the man in the yard was standing opposite her window in the distance. As some worker walked by, the very strange man pointed his finger at her and asked something. Perhaps he is looking for you, Maria was asked by her interlocutor. No way, she began to run through her head who it could be. He certainly didn't look like Ivan, and she didn't have any other male acquaintances who'd come here. Let's go. The old man stood up and walked to the door. I don't want to. Maria was afraid of something. You have nothing to be afraid of here, he assured her. All right. She gathered all her will in a fist and followed her grandfather out. They walked down the long corridor and then down the hall. At that moment, a soaking wet man ran into the building. Maria looked at him and couldn't believe it. It was Oliver. What are you doing here? She ran up to him. Maria, I was looking for you. He came up to her. What's wrong with the house? She didn't even think about it until she saw him now. No, I'm fine. What about you? He took her hands in his. What are you doing? She pulled them away. When you were visiting Sarah that night, sorry, I don't know her middle name, she called me immediately afterwards. He began to tell me. Why? Maria didn't understand anything at all. I don't know it myself, he shrugged. I see. I'll find out with her. Maria thought she was going crazy. Don't you want to talk to me? He asked her. About what? She had only seen this man once. They had made a brief acquaintance. Why was he here now? Maria had a rough idea of what Sarah wanted to accomplish, but she didn't need to. Thank you for visiting me. Goodbye. Maria turned around to leave. Could I come and see you again sometime? Oliver asked her. Why? She didn't turn around. She just stopped. I don't know. I liked you. I don't know why he said that, whether he saw her at first sight or just for the sake of a red word. Let him do it. The old man was with them the whole time. He heard everything. Good, looked Maria at him. After that, she went to her room. An interesting meeting she had today. Why are you so harsh with all the people? The man asked her when they returned to her room. I don't want to cause them trouble, she admitted to him honestly. And you think taking care of you is a hassle for them? He looked at her with colorless eyes. Why not? She couldn't understand it. After all, she knew for a fact that a sick person takes up a lot of time and energy. I can tell you one thing. When you are loved and want to take care of you, it's one thing. It's another thing when you're just a nurse or some service and they hate you. He said those words, got up and walked towards the exit. Why are you leaving? Maria stood up and followed him. I have to go. He looked her in the eyes, opened the doors and left. Over the next few days, Maria walked the paths of the local park, was in the alley where they liked to sit on a bench. But she never met the old man anywhere, And when she asked the nannies where he disappeared, they looked at her with surprise. And again, the loneliness, alone with her thoughts, was difficult. But Oliver didn't listen to her. He was here again. "Hello," she came out to him. "Decided I'd go for luck. If you accept, that's the way it should be. If not, I'll go back." He looked into her eyes. "I don't understand why you're doing this." Maria stood like that, staring at him. "Let's go to the village, to the place where your house stands. There is the same nature, the same house, but all their own, not government," began to persuade the man. "I don't know," Marie wanted to, but she was afraid. "I know what's wrong with you," Oliver said quietly. "Did Sarah tell you that too?" Maria was already resentful. She'd shared it with her, as if she were her best friend who would keep it a secret. She'd shared it with her, as if she were her best friend, the one who would keep it a secret. "Yeah," he nodded. "Why would you do that?" The woman didn't understand at all. "We have a grandmother Julia in the village. I'll take you to her," he said so confidently, as if this grandmother could revive the dead. "No, I don't want any grandmother, and I don't want to go to the village either." She turned away from him again. "Why did you bury yourself alive? You're still young, of course, you won't have children, but you'll have time to live." He took her hand. "Oliver, what are you doing? How old are you? You should have a wife and children. And you're running after some sick woman. Did she pay you money?" The girl was indignant. "What money are you talking about?" He even took offense. "Why all this then?" She looked him over. "I'd already told you that I liked you." He wanted to approach, but Maria moved away. "Give me a chance. Come with me. If you don't like it, you pack up and I'll bring you here myself," he insisted. "Okay, you go and I need to think about it." She wanted him to leave. Maria was so angry at her friend for doing that, for telling a complete stranger everything. At first she wanted to call her, but then she thought she wouldn't. I calmed down and went to my room. She wanted to go to church again. Of course she went. She knew she was always welcome there. The nun came out to meet her, smiled. She was already used to this woman, and now she was leading her to the bishop. "You should be baptized," he told her. "Yes, I wanted to ask, but I was shy." She looked at him. It seemed to her that he was something different from everyone else. "What to be afraid of? It's all natural." He spoke so coldly that she wanted to listen to him and listen to him. "So can I?" She didn't believe he was going to say yes. "Sure, come over on the weekend." He was being so kind. Marija felt like she was standing in front of her father. It felt so good to her. "I will," she was sure of it. After that, back to the boarding house, she just flew on wings. She didn't talk to anyone there. She just went to her room and started going through the pictures. And at night, she dreamed about her dad. "Hello, Maria." He was holding out his arms to her. "Daddy, where have you been all this time? Why didn't you come to me?" She always wanted to ask that, but there was no one to ask. "My little one, follow the one who calls you to come with him," the father said in the voice of the priest she had spoken to in church today. "What?" At that moment, Maria opened her eyes. She was lying there, staring at the ceiling, thinking that the tumor was making itself known. But for some reason, the words that her father had said to her in her dream did not get out of her head. She kept thinking about Oliver. It was decided that if everything went smoothly this weekend, she would agree to go with him to the village, to her home there. Maybe her roots are there, they'll help. "Hello." She approached the church. The nun she already knew was standing there again. "Everything is ready. The father is waiting for you," she said, and led her through the gate. Maria was somehow excited. She stood and looked at what she had seen for a long time, but as if for the first time she was here. The sacrament began. Maria was mesmerized by what was happening. Everything seemed so magical to her. She felt every moment of what the bishop was doing. After she had received the sacrament, she felt at ease. Maria. She heard her name, looked around. Oliver was standing at the gate of the boarding house. "Hello." She approached him today by herself. Are you ready? It was as if he knew she would agree to go with him. Yes, she nodded. Let's go then. Tell everyone and let's go. They went to the administration building. There was no trouble at all. And now, Maria was already sitting next to Oliver in the car, and they were driving to the very village where she had once been. Why did you change your mind? Oliver asked. I don't know. I had a dream about my father, and she was telling him the truth. I'll introduce you to Grandma Julia, and she'll tell you all sorts of things, he said mysteriously. What things? She already believed everything that was going on around her. Last night, she came running to me and started screaming. Go after her, that's all, he turned to Marie. And you? She smiled, realizing she'd asked a stupid question, because there he was, sitting next to her. They arrived quickly as they pulled up to the house, which was Maria's. They got out. I'm so scared, Maria said. There is nothing to be afraid of here. Everything will be fine. He didn't approach her, afraid he would push her away. Well, take me to your Julia. She couldn't wait to see her. Let's go. He held out his hand to her. Maria followed him. The house was low, already more in the ground, but people lived there, or rather, a person, the same grandmother. The man and the woman entered the house. Hello, Maria. Haven't seen her yet, Julia said. What, how did you know it was me? Maria didn't understand. And how can I not feel my blood? For many kilometers I can smell it. She came out of the corner. Blood? Maria looked at the woman. She had an age that could not be determined. Perhaps she was 80, she was all wrinkled. Or maybe 50, just skin like that. Yes, my niece, she came closer. Why? The woman wanted to ask about her relatives. Because your mother, as disliked us from childhood and left here, did not want to know anyone, Julia, went around Maria. And Aunt Olia, from whom I inherited the house. Maria began to understand. There is the place of your power. You will live in this house. All your ailments will pass. But the people who hurt you, the house, if they enter it, will punish. She said some strange things in the same voice. Does that still exist? Maria turned to Oliver, who shrugged. Just what she said before. It all came true, he confirmed. You followed the house also for a reason. Maria guessed. Of course, Julia interrupted him. He's your chosen one. No one else would live with you. What's going on? Maria sat down on a stool. Her head began to throb badly. Hurry, go to your room. It will be easier there. The grandmother pushed her towards the exit. Oliver and Maria walked out. She couldn't believe this was really happening. Yes, that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Julia is shunned by the whole village, but she doesn't do anything bad. She helps people, the man said. She entered the house. It was really nice here. Her headache had stopped. We should start cleaning and tidying up. She looked around. I don't mind. I can get more workers. He was glowing with happiness. Oliver, I'm sorry. She came up to him. What are you talking about? He came closer. Now Maria could see how blue his eyes were. Although both were not so young anymore, but they decided to play the wedding. People in the village were afraid when they heard that the local witch doctor would be there. Maria told everyone how good she was and radiated only goodness. Congratulations, the guests shouted, and Maria stood there, not believing. She was going to die, left everything, left, and here she is standing at a wedding as a bride. Whether it was true or not, she did not understand. At some point, the woman thought that maybe she had lost her mind, and now all this is just a dream. Maria, what are you doing? Called her future husband. She immediately came out of her stupor. Nothing, sorry. She looked at the guests. After the party, Oliver and Maria stopped by her house. There was still a lot of repairs to be done, but it didn't scare anyone. She started to take care of the household and offered Julia to move in with them, but she didn't agree. Each sister had her own house. Where were you before, Maria? They were lying in bed at night. Stop saying that. She was drawn to the church, but she was so far away from the place. Let's go to ours, the local one, wondered Oliver, who cares. No, that's where my Holy Father is. She remembered hearing his voice in her dreams. Okay, if you want. We can go there on weekends, her husband told her. It was agreed then. She looked at Oliver and saw that she had known him for a long time, even though they had only known each other for a short time. They arrived as usual. A nun met her at the gate, and she took her to see her father, and he, as if he knew she was coming, came out to greet her. Hello, Maria bowed her head to him. Greetings. Maria directly heard her father speaking to her. I feel so bad without you, and it's a long way to get to you, she was frank. You don't have to drive here. You can go to any church or temple. He lifted her off his lap. I can't. The pool is only here. She shook her head. You tried. He crossed her. Maria went out to Oliver. He was waiting for her outside. I think your face has even changed, he said to his wife. Shall we go to Sarah's? She asked. Good. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have found you, Oliver admitted. In a short time, they were already sitting at the woman's house in the kitchen, drinking tea. I can't believe that just a few months ago, I had a sick and devastated woman sitting in my kitchen, leaving everything behind and going to die. And now here sit a husband and wife who are ready to still be alive and living, she smiled. I can't believe it myself, Maria admitted to her. Were you mad at me? Sarah knew this would happen. Of course, told all my secrets, Maria laughed. See what all those secrets turned into, she glanced at the man. Maria wanted to ask about Ivan, but she was hesitant to ask what her husband would think. She looked at Sarah and thought the woman would guess what she needed to tell her. But the woman was silent, probably not even thinking that anyone would want to know. We'll probably head for home. Oliver stood up from the table. Maria, is this Julia really that strong? Sarah asked. I don't know, but I think so. She looked at her friend in surprise. Is there any way I can get to her? The woman made sure Oliver didn't hear her. She knew men laughed at that. I'll ask, Maria promised. They got into the car. Let's go before the town ends, Maria turned to her husband. Maybe we could stop at a store and buy something for the house, she told him. Which one do you want? He was ready to fulfill any wish of his wife. At least in this one, she pointed her finger at the curb. Agreed, the man stopped. They got out of the car. There was so much in the store that the eyes were scattered. At some point, Maria froze on the spot. Oliver was carrying boxes, so he bumped into her. Maria, are you what? He set the load on the floor, looked. The woman stood looking forward, and there was a man and a woman. Maria, muttered Evan. Evan, she said. Who's that? The husband wondered. This is my ex-husband. She shifted her gaze to his companion. It was Emma, but she looked different from the last time Maria had seen her. The woman had aged. There were a lot of wrinkles on her face. What's wrong with you? She asked her friend. It's all your fault, you said. She wanted to attack her, but Evan wouldn't let her. I thought you were dead. He said, I thought you were dead. What are you talking about? My wife is alive. Oliver stood in front of her. I don't have anything against it at all. Evan spread his hands. He nudged Emma and they walked on. Did you love him? Oliver took his eyes off his wife. It doesn't matter. You're with me now and I love you. She walked over and hugged her husband for the first time. They bought everything they needed and drove back home. After that, they came to church every weekend. Always after her visit, her father came to her in a dream and told her something, which then came true. Maria, Sarah came to see her. Julia agreed to take her in. The friend was happy. But after that, it was time to be surprised. It turns out that Sarah came to ask her aunt if she's still getting married. So, funny to you. Looked at Maria. Not at all, she was smiling. Yeah, I can see that. Her friend didn't believe her. What did Julia tell you? Maria leaned over to her. Can you imagine? She said that I will come out, and soon. Put her finger to her lips, friend. So much for the older friend. Maria laughed openly now. The next time Oliver and Maria arrived at the church, someone was being buried there. At first the woman didn't want to go in, so as not to interfere with the process. But on her way out of the gate, she ran into Evan. "Hey, what are you doing here?" She was surprised that this man had come to the church. "Emma died," he tilted his head. "How? We saw you the other day. Everything was fine." Maria couldn't understand. "It was bad. Ailments. After that checkup, a tumor, burned like a match," Evan explained. "I'm so sorry. I know firsthand what it's like." Maria knew how hard it was. They were standing there talking when Oliver walked up to them. "Hello," he shook Evan's hand. "Greetings." It was like they were good buddies. "I'm so flattered you're not fighting." Maria looked at her husband. "What do we share? You are mine." He put his arm around her shoulders. They said goodbye and drove back to the village. Julia was waiting for them at the gate. "She's the one who took your illness for herself. She was jealous of you, wanted to have it all, so she got it." She narrowed her eyes. "What?" Maria didn't believe it. "That is, if you envy and want everything, you will get it. But not only the good, but also the bad." She turned around and went to her room. "Oliver, is that possible?" She turned to her husband. "I don't know," but never contradicted Julia. She never once made a mistake. He walked through the gate. Maria stood looking after her relative. Why hadn't her mother told her that she had been born into such an extraordinary family? Why hadn't she introduced them earlier? Perhaps it wouldn't have been like this. "Are you coming or not?" Oliver asked her through the window. Now she turned, opened the gate, and walked in. Maria was happy. No one remembered now that she had once left everyone to die. But the story, when Oliver came to rescue his princess, she tells the children with whom she works in kindergarten. "Maria, I'm glad you came into my life." Oliver always greeted her, and even though it was funny, she believed him. "Your aunt said it would have happened inevitably." She smiled. "Yeah, and if the other one hadn't died, you still wouldn't have the house." He walked over and kissed her. "And albeit in our old age, but we are together and happy." She was glad it had happened that way. How many wonderful things she had met over the years. Maria still can't explain some of the moments, but she is happy that it happened that way. She knows now that any encounter in life doesn't just go away. That person will still play some role in her life.
John was sitting in his office, daydreaming about being called in by his boss. Just yesterday, everyone had learned that the head of a major department was retiring. It was a position everyone was dreaming of now, but John knew he had to be the one to get the job. "Hello, there's a young man here at the big firm. Have a seat." The man at the big desk was already tired. Today it was the fifth person who came for an interview. "Here are my education documents, all the certificates." John spread out the papers on the table. "Thank you. Tell me, how do you feel about the fact that you will often have to stay late?" This was the main question, because for 8 working hours, it was unrealistic to manage everything. So the contract stipulated irregular working hours, and even though the employees knew about it and signed it, they started talking about their rights when they had to stay. "It's okay, I'm ready for it." John was willing to do anything to get him here. "Good, we will consider you," he promised him, as he had promised all the previous supervisors. John arrived home where his wife was waiting for him. He didn't let the phone out of his hands. "So, are you just going to sit there like that?" Selina asked him. "I believe that this position will definitely be mine," her husband told her. "I believe that too, but there are other things to do until you get the call," she said. "Look, I can't think about anything else until I know if it's a yes or a no." He didn't want to quarrel with his wife. "So wait," she picked up the rolled-up rug and left the apartment. They had been planning a general cleaning for a long time, and now that everything had been stripped off the floors and the closets pushed back, Selina was doing it all alone. "At least help with the furniture." She stood by the closet. "Selena, can't we leave this for tomorrow?" John asked. And if they don't call tomorrow, we'll be sleeping on an air mattress for 6 months? Indignant wife. They would, he was sure of it. Of course, Selina wanted that too, but she didn't think her husband would be so fixated. John was a third-year student when he saw the young girls who had just arrived to enroll. They were standing on the porch, talking. "Are you girls going to our university too?" he asked them then. "Yeah, we're waiting for the lists to be posted," they laughed. "You'll get in, don't worry," he passed by. And in the evening he saw them in the dormitory where he lived. Hi, Selina was sitting on the watch, waiting for someone. The rain ended. The young ones had already talked about everything. It was starting to get dark outside. "Let's go," got up from the bench and extended his hand to Selina. "Yes, still need to get everything ready," she smiled. "Don't leave without me tomorrow." He walked her to the floor and went down to his room. "If you want, you can come over in the evening, I'll feed you." She knew that the guys in the dormitory didn't cook much for themselves. "Thank you for that. My roommate and I will definitely come." He watched as she reached the room and went. "Selina, you said you'd go and ask the janitor about the doormats, and you disappeared somewhere," jumped up a friend and part-time roommate. "Come on, Maria. I met such a guy." Of course, Selina was not going to wait for John. Everything happened by chance. She made up that version for him to appreciate. The one. They were talking about him when he came up to them on the steps. Yeah, she'd have to make something to serve them now. She looked at the bag. "Why don't we have a real wedding?" John said one winter day. Come on, she was ready for it. Her partner was the most good and reliable, so she did not doubt at all that they will be great. That same evening the girl called her parents, told them about the proposal John had made to her. He informed his own, too. They didn't have many friends. So Selina took Maria, and John Evan, parents arrived. The wedding was quiet. "Congratulations," the bride's father handed them the keys. "Dad, what's this?" The girl didn't understand. "The apartment, your apartment," he told her. "Are you kidding?" She couldn't believe it. "Why? We talked to the matchmakers, took a loan, but now you have your own nest." He did not hide anything. "Thank you." She looked at her friends. Now she and John had an apartment, which they were happy about. Everything in this family was going well. Selina was still studying, and John needed a job to bring in some income for the family. "Did you find anything?" his wife asked him at home. No, it had been almost a year since he had finished his education, but no one had found a job. Why? She wondered, because she knew there were plenty of vacancies. "I don't want to spread myself thin. I dream to find such a job that once and for the rest of my life, with a high and stable income," he reasoned. "You are so self-confident." The girl shook her head. "What's the big deal if a person wants to go where it's good?" he wondered. "No, it's just that first you should go, work, prove yourself, show yourself," she advised. "No, I don't want to do that." He showed that the conversation was over. "All right, do as you please, but don't forget to pay the rent." Selina often sent money from her father. "I think I found the exact same thing when John came home." "So, when are you gonna go?" Selina didn't believe her husband would ever get a job. "Tomorrow, just have to be well prepared." He collected all his documents. "Good luck." The wife went to the kitchen. "Thank you." He believed he'd be hired. He'd do everything but chew his way out. And so, he sits in the office, across from the boss, whom John is a little afraid of. All the paperwork's in order, and they tell him they'll call him when a decision has been made. John knew that's what they usually said when a candidate wasn't a good fit. He decided not to argue yet, but to wait. If he didn't get a call, he would go again. "John, the phone," Selina shouted. It was late. The young man had gone to take a shower. Quickly, he pulled his hand out of the bathroom. There, Selina ran up to him. "Hello," the wife heard, and then her husband disappeared behind the doors. "And what did they tell you?" He stepped out, towel hanging on his hips. "Selina, congratulate me." He raised his hands and began to smile. No way. It means he didn't wait for nothing. She rejoiced with her husband. Well, everything. Now we will have everything, and happiness, and love, and money. He looked at his beloved. The next day, he pulled out a new suit he bought long ago from the closet, waiting to be worn. Selina had ironed everything, and John was ready. Bye, he shouted and walked out. Selina packed up and went to her studies. She was sure now that she had chosen just the right man for her life. Until recently, the girl took money for things and everything else from her father. Perhaps now her husband would be able to provide for her properly. Here in this office you will sit, guided him around the building by the girl who was supposed to be his boss. Thank you. John was afraid of what he might let down and be fired or reprimanded. He took his seat. The man knew a lot of things. When he was shown and told what he had to do, there was hardly any difficulty after that. So, how was work? Selina asked. It was fine. He was working on paperwork at home too. Well, I won't bother. Selina had a little time left before graduation. She was studying for her exams, writing her thesis. Selina asked John for help, but he said he didn't have time. Selina realized that now all her husband's time was taken up by work. She suffered from it, but she didn't show it. Will you go to the prom with me? She asked John when it was over. No, you know I have work, he said. And what? No way at all. She didn't understand how she could miss such an important day in her life. John worked hard, but he didn't bring home as much money as he promised. Selina still had to go to her father. Why is your salary so small? His wife asked him one evening. Be happy that they give me so much, the young man replied. He had changed a lot lately. He kept writing something, bought a safe. He said it was for papers with a lot of valuable information. I don't understand how one can work and not get anything for it. Selina sighed and went to the kitchen. The diploma was in hand. All that was left was to find and get a job. Her father was again not left out. He helped his daughter with this issue. Now Selina was also working. How surprised she was when she received her first paycheck. The amount was more than what her husband brought home. How come? She put the money on the coffee table at home and looked at her husband. How should I know? It's the level. He shrugged and went to his room. Selina wasn't angry. She just didn't understand what was happening to the man she loved so much. We have a corporate party tomorrow. They are inviting wives. Are you going? John asked his wife in the evening. Of course, I have a new dress, she rejoiced. Then be ready by 7 tomorrow. And he went back to his room. Selina thought that now their relationship would be better. They would go to the party together, and afterwards they would talk, figure things out. She waited for the evening because she wanted to show herself in front of her husband and not only in all her glory. Hi, she opened the door to him in the evening. Wow, he looked at her, admiration in his eyes. I'm ready, she said. Okay, just a minute, and I'll be ready too. He strode to the back of the apartment. She took a seat in a chair, waited for her husband, and brushed her hair. He, as promised, spent a few minutes in the bathroom, put on his suit, and came out to her. Great, she imagined what the two of them looked like together. The couple walked outside. A cab had been called ahead of time. They pulled up to a beautiful building, got out. It was kind of exciting. For some reason, Selina started to worry. It's okay. The people are nice, John assured her. They went inside. Those who were already there noticed the couple. John sat his wife down at the table and went to say hello. He came back rather quickly. Selina didn't have time to do anything. When the rest of the guests arrived, the party started. Fun, Selina shouted in her husband's ear because the music was playing loudly. We'll go home soon, he pointed at his watch. The girl more than once wanted to dance, but John did not let her in, saying that it was indecent. Why? Other people dance. It's all right, she took offense. That's it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. He didn't look at her. That evening they came home early. John changed his clothes and went to his place as he said, to work. "I thought we'd spend the evening together," she said. "We will, but not now." He went out the door. The girl sat down on the couch. She couldn't help but be angry with John. She tried to think of an excuse to come over, but nothing came to mind. So Selina undressed, went to the bathroom, and went to bed. She lay there for a long time, keeping the light on, hoping that her husband would come in. But John, apparently, was busy with other things. "Good morning." She entered the kitchen in the morning, but there was no one there. Selina was surprised, made herself some coffee, got dressed, and went to work as well. Before heading out the door, she noticed John's room was ajar. Selina figured he was in there because at other times her husband locked the doors. "John." She pushed the door open, but there was no young man inside either. Selina walked in and saw that there was a magazine on the table and a lot of other papers. "What's this?" She opened the notebook, and there were some amounts written down. At first, she thought they were work figures, but then she realized it was her husband's earnings. He wrote how much he received. The next column was officially for his wife. The next column was for spending, and the last column was for what was left. Wow, she looked at it and couldn't believe it. The amount he was getting was 5 times the amount he was bringing home as a paycheck. Selina was angry. She took a picture of what she found. Then she put it back the way it was, shut the doors, and left. "Look, why did you talk so bad about your wife? Look how smart and beautiful she is," a friend at work told John. "Do you know how much you had to spend at the salon to get her to look like that? Come on, everyone has nothing but good things to say about her." He looked at the others sitting there. "What are you guys? She can't cook. She can't cook. She's got no housekeeping skills at all." The young man didn't understand what they all saw in his wife. And most of all, how, because she sat all evening at the table, did not get up anywhere, only when they came and went. "Well, you're wrong. Everyone says what a beautiful and clever woman she is," disagreed with his colleague. "I heard that her father helps you a lot," said the girl who was present at this conversation. "What he helped? Yes, he bought an apartment on credit, pays, and gives his daughter, so he is a parent," resented John. It was his most painful topic. "Why are you so excited? Now both of you are getting money, especially you. You can afford everything." That morning work was not on his mind at all. John walked home. He didn't understand why he had brought Selina with him in the first place. Now he was so bad and she was good. And then there was the money thing. John couldn't understand why he was so angry with Selina. She hadn't done anything wrong. Yes, she wanted a fur coat and boots, but he couldn't just spend money like that. "I'm home," he walked in. "And I'm waiting for you." She came out to meet him. "What's wrong?" He saw Selina tense. She showed him the picture on her phone. "You went through my room." He was shocked. "Thought since this morning you were in there. The door was open," she admitted. "So, what's next?" He was waiting to see how this would play out. "Nothing. I'm waiting for you to explain why you've kept the proceeds from me for so long," Selina said calmly. "I don't want to say anything," he said. "Why?" She couldn't understand what she had done to make him treat her like that. "And you don't understand. I'm saving up," he told her. "For what?" My wife wondered. "That's none of your business." He turned around. "Why are you treating me like this?" the girl cried. "And what did you do to support my authority?" He looked back. "What? Then I had to support him," was very surprised Selina. Came to the corporate party in a short dress, walked there, twirling her heel. He began to say to her, "What are you saying? I sat next to you. You didn't even let me get up once." Her eyes widened. "How can you lie so brazenly? What are you telling me? Today, they told me everything. What a frivolous wife I have." He was not going anywhere. "Why did you even take me with you in the first place? You came home, told me how good I looked, and now it turned out to be completely wrong." She was no longer embarrassed by her tears, just crying. I only saw the picture from the front. If I'd known it was out in the open, I never would have let her go like that. Or maybe I wouldn't have taken her at all. He was getting more and more upset. John, stop. I've always done everything for you, for our family. Ever since you started having money, you've changed a lot. She couldn't believe it. This was their first big fight. What were you doing? All the co-workers are now judging at work. He couldn't stop. In fact, they were judging him for saying different things about his woman. My father has been helping us financially for so many years. You never said we didn't need something. She sat down on the couch and stopped talking. What was there to give? Your father. He wrinkled his nose. At this point, he went to his room. Selena sat looking after him and thought that perhaps it was their time. Love was gone. Only money was left. What do you want to do? She shouted to John. Still undecided, he sat behind closed doors. It seemed to Selena that he was sitting there, like the mole from Thumbelina, counting his savings. She washed her face and went to bed. In the morning, the wife found her husband in the kitchen eating breakfast. "Hello," she passed by. "I'm leaving." He took a sip of coffee. "What?" She turned to him. "Are you deaf?" He sounded kind of cocky. "No. Why?" She sat down across from him. "It's just that I'm tired of being spread out on several fronts. I'll be alone. I'll buy an apartment, a car, to have everything like people." He reasoned as if he had a few million in his pocket. "Good," she cried again. It was so frustrating that at first, when there was nothing at all, her father had done everything for them. Later, when something began to appear, the man still did not give up, always helped, sent money. All of John's winter clothes were bought with that money. That's great, that without a quarrel, he got up so proud, went to the room, there was already standing packed bag. "Where are you going to go?" Selena was curious about that. "You shouldn't care about that," he replied. Okay, his wife agreed with him. She realized that if John had decided, he could not be changed. He put on his shoes, looked at her, and slammed the door. Happily, she closed the doors behind him. Then she put her back on them, slid to the floor, and began to cry to her heart's content. Why is he so cruel? She asked herself. John looked for an apartment to rent in the afternoon. He had called the landlady and made arrangements, so now he knew exactly where he would go. "Hello," he approached the entrance. "Did you bring the money?" the woman asked him. "Yes, here, count it." He handed her the bills. "That's right, here are the keys." She handed him a bunch. John went up to his apartment. It seemed to him that even breathing became easier. Now he was alone. He didn't have to share money with anyone, buy something and make other expenses. The young man laid out his things, which he didn't have much of, then decided to check his notebook again. He sat and looked at it and couldn't get enough of it. Well, it will not be enough for an apartment, of course, but it is possible to get a used car, he said to himself. After that he got up, went out to the balcony, stood like that, the master of life. The next day John went to work happy. He did not tell anyone that he left his wife, but probably it was not interesting. Now the guy was working. He took part-time jobs, but he couldn't earn much. "Hello, haven't you forgotten that the rent is due tomorrow?" the landlady called him. Of course not. He pressed his lips together, because he didn't want to part with the money. John didn't understand where his finances were going at all. Now he had to buy little things, soap, shampoo, groceries. It turned out it was taking so much money. Before, he didn't see it running out or showing up at all. It was a matter of course. 1, 2, 3. Went to his room and started counting out the amount needed, looked at it. The savings were melting away like snow. He was enjoying the life of a loner. At the same moment his wife was suffering, she was crying. Called her husband because neither of them had filed for divorce. He was rude, he didn't want to talk, he didn't want to communicate at all. "John, come to your senses. Why did you leave? It wasn't so bad to break up." She choked with sobs into the phone. "Stop crying. Time will pass, and you will remember this situation with laughter, he told her. I can't. Where can I put the love that I have for you? She didn't believe that just like that you can just take and cut everything off. And for what? For money, which is always in short supply. John just hung up on her. He thought he was right about everything. It seemed to him that he had achieved everything himself. He had studied, found a decent job, and now he could afford everything. He had enough for everything. Selina, sitting at home, thought that her husband had gone crazy with the big money he was getting. Lorik, hi. Where have you been? I haven't seen or heard from you, a friend called her. Maria, I feel so bad. Come over, Selina cried again. Of course, you could have called me yourself. Were you shy? A friend was worried. Come on, hurry up, I'm waiting. Selina hurried her. I'll be right there. Maria hung up the phone. An hour later, the girls were already sitting in the kitchen at Selina's place, complaining about what John had done. I never thought that John was so greedy for money, Maria said when she heard the story. And Selina couldn't hold back her tears again. She sat back and looked at her friend, who was cutting cheese at that moment. Nothing, do not worry, you will find a new man. Try to cheer up, girlfriend. I still haven't filed for divorce. I believe he'll come back, cried Selina. Is he calling? Maria asked. No, I try to talk, but he ignores. Friends poured wine into glasses. Okay, come on, to our happiness. Maria smiled and raised her glass. Thank you for coming, and most importantly at the right time, stood up, went to her friend and hugged her. It's okay, she patted her shoulder. They sat and talked for a long time, and by evening Selina was not as depressed as she had been at first. Maria decided to stay here for the night. She supported her friend always and everywhere. Good morning. Selina got up and came into the kitchen. Hi, and I made cheesecakes, remember? As before, in the dorm, smiled her friend. Today was a day off. The girls were going out for a little walk. Is it good? She asked when Selina took a bite. The taste of childhood, rolled her girlfriend's eyes. It'll be fine, Maria promised again. They ate breakfast and afterwards started to get ready to go outside. Shall we go to the park? Asked her friend. They used to go there a lot when they were studying. There were various rides, swings, merry-go-rounds, all beckoning and frightening at the same time. And let's go on the catamaran. Maria shouted. She was already heading towards a small body of water. Good, Celine didn't care where she was going. She actually felt better with Maria's arrival. Until the evening the girls walked around, they had fun that Selina even forgot for a while what had happened in her life. It's such a shame that you have to leave, Selina said to her friend as they said goodbye. It's okay, call me, I'll always be there. Maria kissed her friend and went to the bus stop. Bye, Selina shouted after her. She went back home. It was lonely here again. She didn't know why she kept thinking about John. He had said so many mean things to her that she could hate him. But Selina loved him, so she couldn't do that. Why are you doing this to me? She took his picture in her hands. Naturally, she didn't wait for an answer. So she went to the bathroom. She had to go to work tomorrow. She needed to get some sleep. In the morning, she arrived at work. It was business as usual there. Selina left the office for a while, and when she came back, she saw 2 missed calls from her friend on her phone screen. Hi, she called her. Sorry to interrupt, Maria mumbled. No, she was just glad her friend was calling. Listen, I just remembered. We're going to a restaurant this weekend. Come with us, Maria said. Oh, would that be okay? Selina wanted to go, but she didn't know what those who would be there would think of her. Come on, practically everyone from school is there, her friend persuaded her. Okay, then I'll go, she finally said. Saturday at 6 then, Maria told her the time. Oh, I will definitely be. That I sit alone at home, there is at least some fun, she was sure of it. After talking to her friend, Selina perked up a bit. She thought she would walk home through the stores today. It would be both emotionally draining and fun. A new dress wouldn't hurt her one bit. Try this one on. The saleswoman handed her a beautiful cocktail dress. Yes, she took it. Selena tried on so many dresses, skirts, and blouses that she was tired. She came home with a bag with the new dress in it. Her mood was high. The next day she went to work. She was very happy. "Selena, if I did not know, I would think that you fell in love," said her colleague. "Why?" The girl did not understand. She sat down in her seat, began to move everything on the table. "Your eyes are shining with happiness." The woman approached her. "You know, I woke up this morning, and I thought, why suffer? John's out there living the good life, and all I do is shed tears. Maybe you should close the door to the past and open another one to the present," Selena said with full optimism. "And it's true, I'm so happy for you," she hugged her. Selena threw everything out of her husband's study that evening. She wanted to make it a room for herself. She ordered a big mirror, a sofa, a beautiful chair. By the end of the week, everything was ready. She had to change the wallpaper too. She looked around. Now the girl had her own room where she could make beauty. It helped to get John out of her head, too. "So, are you ready?" Maria called Saturday morning. Of course, she was just steaming her dress. "Then that's it. No distractions," she hung up. Selena arrived at the place exactly at the appointed time. She saw that Maria was already there, waiting for her. "Thanks for waiting. Oh, I didn't know how I was going to get in," Selena kissed her. "It's okay. Let's go." They walked over to a table where two people were already seated. Aubrey and Nancy, Selena rejoiced. "There, and you were afraid of who would be?" "Who would be?" laughed Maria. "Okay, that's it, we're done." She waved her hand. They sat down at the table, made an order, and began to remember how and what was. A lot of laughter and words. It attracted attention to them from other visitors. "You guys are having so much fun," a handsome young man approached them. "Thank you. Haven't seen you since we studied together," said Selena. She was smiling. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" He held out his hand to her. "Sure." She stood up, looking at Maria with big eyes. "Go," she whispered. Selena followed the young man. He headed for the exit. When they came out, he turned to her. "Jack," was the first thing he introduced himself. "Selena," she blushed slightly. "You were laughing so hard I couldn't help but approach." He looked at her so intently she couldn't stand the look. "Thank you. So, what did you want to talk about?" She reminded him why they had come here. "Oh yes, I think I've seen you somewhere before." He took her hand. "No, you imagined it." She took her hand away from the man's. "I'd like to socialize," he said at the end. "You know, I'm married." Selena lowered her eyes and walked back to her friends. "At least give me a phone number," he shouted at her. "What's all this for?" She turned to him. "Selena, I really liked you." He looked into her eyes again. "Excuse me." She walked over to their table. "You what?" She asked her friend when she saw her packing her bag. "I'm going to go," she said it, and with a quick step she headed for the exit. "I don't understand." Maria stood and watched Selena walk away. On the same foot she walked over to the table where the same young man was sitting. "Excuse me, can I have a word with you?" Maria walked over and said to him. "Yes, what did you want?" He stood up again and went to the girl. "My name is Maria. I'm Selena's friend." She was worried. Why did she leave? What did you tell her? "I'm Jack." I said I felt like I knew her. She denied it. We met. I asked for her number, but she said she was married and then ran away. That's the whole story. He looked at the door. She was not married. Her husband turned out to be a very bad one. He'd left her. Now she's been alone for a few months. Maria told him the truth. "Maybe you can give me her number, and then I'll do everything myself," he asked. "Of course I will. Even though she says she's married, she's suffering and wants love." She took the phone out of her bag. "Thank you. I swear I will never hurt your friend if she is with me. He wrote down the numbers. It's okay, I believe you. She smiled at her new acquaintance and went to the girls. Selena was at home when her phone rang. The number was unknown. She picked it up. Selena, I'm sorry, it's Jack. He started to speak quickly because he was afraid she would get disconnected. Where did you get my number? She didn't understand. Maria gave it to him. He wouldn't lie. Good friend, Selena scolded her girlfriend, but at the same moment she smiled. Jack was cute. The girl really liked him, but for some reason she started thinking about John again. What if he came back and she was with someone else? Maybe we could get together, he asked the girl. I don't think that's a good idea. She couldn't answer positively because she was ashamed of herself. Why? He didn't want to end the conversation. I don't know, she was telling the truth. Well, let's sleep on the idea and I'll call you again tomorrow. Jack insisted on continuing the conversation. Okay, goodbye, she hung up. After that, she immediately dialed Marie. Friend, how could you do that? She asked her. What did I do? He seems decent, Maria simply stated. Yeah, he's already called me, Selena admitted. So socialize, and forget your John already, Maria insisted. I can't, no matter what he did bad for me. I can't get it out of my head. I just think he'll come back, Selena cried again. Stop crying, give Jack at least a small chance, you'll get to know each other better. Then you'll draw conclusions. Her friend didn't want her to cry. Okay, bye, thank you. Thank you for your help, Selena passed out. After that she sat down in front of the mirror and began to look at herself. The girl was tall, slender, dark hair flowing down her shoulders. Her eyes were sad. She blinked. A small salty droplet fell on the panel in front of the mirror. She wiped it away with her finger. Why do you make me suffer? She asked her reflection, though she was addressing John. Selena couldn't sleep that night. She tossed and turned for a long time, thinking about meeting Jack. In the morning, she was a wreck. Her whole body ached. It felt like a tank had driven over her. No need to go to work today. So she filled a bathtub for herself, determined to relax a little. Just as she lay in the soft foam, the phone rang. It was him again. Hello, Jack, she said into the phone. Hi, how are you? He asked cheerfully. I'm fine, taking a bath, she said honestly. I wish I were here right now, he said dreamily. That's dreaming, boldly, laughed Selena. Believe me, I like you very much, he admitted to her. Okay, but we need to take some time to talk, to get to know each other better. She liked the way he spoke, the timbre of his voice. Whatever you say, no distractions. Goodbye, I'll call again. The man was decent. Selena hung up the phone, sighed. Maybe she really should just screw him, that John. She even slapped the water. Such was her mood. After the treatments it felt better. She even dozed off for a while. Selena spent the whole day at home. She didn't feel like going out. She watched movies and just lay on the couch. In the morning, when the girl came to work, she saw a huge bouquet of flowers on the table. She would like to believe that this beauty was delivered for her by John. But Selena was 99% sure that they were from Jack. A new admirer. A co-worker's guest. I don't know, she shrugged, not wanting to talk about it. Well, we'll find out soon enough, the women laughed. Selena sat there. The flowers had such a pleasant scent that she couldn't help but enjoy it. In a week, she had found a lot of things on her desk. Flowers, toys, gifts, but nothing she did or didn't do. Hey, she called herself on her day off. Well, finally, Jack was glad. Don't think about it. I'm calling to say it's all nice, but it's useless, she was sure of it. That we'll see, just as she believed him in his words. Well, I'm ready to meet and talk, she reassured the man. Unfortunately, it's impossible. I am now far away from the city where you are. Business, he sighed. Okay, when you arrive, call. She gave him a chance to meet. but only to talk about the impossibility of them being together. They would, he promised. Why are you reacting like that? Selena is really spectacular. What could have happened in your relationship? Everyone wanted to know, but he couldn't tell them the truth. On the financial part, things were not as good in John's life as he had dreamed they would be. The savings ran out quickly. John liked to eat out and go out on the weekends. Every month rent, where you had to pay not only the rent, but also the utilities, food, and all the other little things, took almost everything out of his pocket. "Lend me some money," he asked his friend. "You get such a good salary. Why don't you always have enough?" he asked. "Will you lend it or not?" he insisted. "Sure," he nodded. They always helped each other out. John didn't know what to do. He started thinking about Selena. There's an apartment of her own after all. She gets a paycheck, he'll bring it, and a bunch will form. But how to call her when he'd been hurting her for so long? He was in the kitchen that day, so he didn't see the phone ringing. When a couple of missed ones from his wife were discovered, however, he smiled and dialed her. "Hi," he said, as if they hadn't seen each other for a day. "John, and I thought you were ignoring me," she almost shouted into the phone. "Selena, can I come over to your place?" he asked. "Sure. Is something wrong?" she asked worriedly. "No, I just missed you. I want to talk," he lied to her. "I'm always waiting for you." His heart was pounding in his chest, like it wanted to jump out of there. "I'll be there in a couple days then." They ended the conversation with those words. Selena put the phone back on the shelf, her cheeks flaming, her heart still racing. She thought he couldn't live without her after all. "Are you crazy?" Maria screamed when Selena told her everything. "He's my husband. I love him," she said honestly. "You're an idiot," she sighed. "Why are you insulting me?" Selena couldn't understand why Maria wasn't happy for her. "Because it's the truth. He just ditched you, didn't want to communicate, and now at any rate something happened. That's why he's calling you." Her friend was sure of it. "I don't think so," the girl was sure. "Oh, do what you want." Maria did not want to argue with her. "Here, when you again step on the same rake, then you will realize that I was right." Okay, Selena didn't want to listen to anyone. Maria left, but John came in. It was such a joy for his wife. She threw herself around his neck, kissed him. He kissed her back, only reluctantly. "Hello," she looked at him. "Hello." He went into the room, saw that his office was gone. "Sorry, I changed it to fit." Selena couldn't believe he was here again, next to her. "It's okay, it's like he never left." In the evening, Selena made dinner. The two of them sat in the kitchen together. "John, I love you so much. I knew you would come back." She wanted to jump up and hug him again. "Okay, let's eat." He picked up his fork. They started dinner. It seemed like a nice family, except John couldn't sit there. His conscience tormented him. "I ironed everything for you." She pointed to the closet where she had hung and arranged the clothes. "Thank you," he nodded. In the morning, the husband and wife left for work. Jack kept calling Selena, but she didn't answer him because she didn't want any provocation. "Please call Jack and tell him that John is back with me and not to call again," she asked Maria. "Okay, but know that I think what you did was stupid." Maria started accusing her again. "That's it, thank you." Selena didn't feel like talking anymore. She passed out. She didn't talk to anyone. She sat in silence all day, even though her co-workers asked her what was wrong. After the workday was over, she went to the stores. She wanted to please her lover. Was it a holiday? John was frightened when he got home. He thought he probably should have bought a present. "No, it's fine. Just thought I'd throw a party for you and me," she smiled. "Great, I'm hungry as a wolf." He ran his hand over his stomach. "That's great. Go wash your hands and go to the table." She went back to the kitchen. Before John went to the bathroom to wash his face, he went into his room, which again he had asked Selena for. There he opened the nightstand and put down the money he had gotten today. "Here," He brought his wife the leftovers. What's this? She was surprised. A bonus. He was happy. Thank you. She took the bills and put them in her pocket. They sat in the kitchen and were silent. Selena was afraid that she would start with something wrong. John couldn't think of anything to talk about. Did you miss me? His wife finally asked. Yes. He averted his eyes because it wasn't true. Neither did I. She wanted him to hug and kiss her, but John didn't even move. Thanks for dinner. He stood up. She couldn't believe she'd cooked so much today, stood at the stove, and he'd just eaten and gone. It was a shame. Yeah, I have to work tomorrow. I need to get some sleep. He was lying again. Jack kept calling. Selena didn't want to communicate. There was no development in their family with John. He came home from work as before and closed himself in his office. The only thing that comforted Selena was that he was here with her. I'd go to work, he'd leave in the morning, she'd just watch him go. 9 months passed like that. They lived like neighbors. Sometimes Selena cried, but she did it without her husband seeing. Were you crying? He'd come up to her. No. Why would you say that? She made big eyes so he wouldn't notice. Bygones. He didn't want to know the details. Okay, she'd go to the bathroom, where she'd continue to shed tears. Why live like this? Maria asked her in their rare meetings. How? She didn't understand. He left, you cried. Now you are next to him. Nothing has changed, Maria concluded. Yes, I agree, Selena admitted. And then why all this? Did not understand the friend. I do not know. I love him. I cannot let go. Now the girl spoke a little differently. I see. Maria tightened her lips. What are you going to do? You see, the most frustrating thing is that I think I understand why he came back, wanted to cry. Celine. Tell me, was ready to listen to the interlocutor. I went to his room, looked in the nightstand, and there are stacks of money lying there. Why does he bring me these pennies? I do not ask, do not say that I need, and he gives and lies at the same time. All the same tears did not hold on the eyelashes. I see the money ran out, so she came running. Now, you don't have to pay for anything. Maria realized everything. And I thought the same thing. My friends continued to sit in the cafe and chat. Selena came home that evening. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she was already agreeing to the divorce. All that was left was to come to it. John was home, but he didn't even come out to see his wife. She went into the bedroom and never came out again that night. Selena, are you standing or sitting? Maria called her at the beginning of summer. Tell me, what happened? For some reason her friend got nervous. I saw your John yesterday. Do you know who he was with? She asked. No, my hands were shaking. With some teenage girl, Maria almost shouted. Maybe you got it wrong. John's wife couldn't believe it. They were walking. He was holding her waist, laughing, kissing. I followed them to a cafe. If you want pictures, I can throw them down, a friend ranted. Selena couldn't live like that anymore. Every day she learned something new about her husband. The pictures were blurry, but you could still see the girl in them. She was really young, pretty. But Selena was not an old woman yet. Why had he traded her away? Why had she forgiven him for all this? I came, he entered the apartment. It was late, but Selena was sitting in the room, waiting for him. Why are you doing this to me? She asked him forehead to forehead when he first entered the room. Oh, you scared me, shuddered John. I asked a question. She looked at him and waited for an answer. How? He pretended not to understand. He came back for money, and now he's cheating, she said calmly. What? It was obvious that he was surprised how she knew all this. What he heard, she couldn't feel sorry for him anymore. Selena, you wanted me to come back. Here I am, standing in front of you. What are your complaints? He began to shout. I understand. The best defense is offense. She didn't look at him. What are you trying to do? He went to his room. Nothing. I just wanted to understand why. Why I deserve to be treated like this. She was crying again. What attitude? I have nothing for you at all. Yes, you're right that I came back for the money, but it's easier for you too. He opened the door and he wanted to come in. And you dare to tell me that so openly? She couldn't understand. What's wrong with the truth? He couldn't understand. Nothing, John. I understand everything. If you want, you can leave, she said. That's what I wanted to talk to you about too. Why should I leave when we got this apartment together as a wedding gift? He stood there looking her in the eye. What? Selena's breath caught in her throat. Why didn't she? He was waiting for an answer. Our parents borrowed it together, and then your parents refused to pay. So, my father paid everything, so the apartment is mine. She could not accept any objections. It doesn't change anything. I have to live somewhere too. He folded his arms across his chest and leaned against the wall. I can't believe you're the same John I met. She turned away from him. And you, are you the same? He asked her a counter question. I think so. She realized it was useless to talk. Do you want me to leave? He asked her bluntly. Yes, she herself couldn't believe she could say that. Okay, give me some time and I'll do it to make you happy. Don't think it's that happy for me, she told him. I don't think anything about you at all, at which point he just turned his back and walked away. Selena was crying in her bedroom. She didn't know what to do. She picked up her phone and dialed her friend again. If while she was married to John and everything was fine in the family, she didn't communicate with Maria so closely, because there just hadn't been time. But now, they talked almost every day, and it was nice. Girlfriend, what's up so late? Maria replied. I kicked John out, Selena said into the phone. What? Maria seemed to have been asleep before, and now she was awake. I told him everything straight. He didn't want to leave. He asked me to give him time, the girl said. Wow, and I thought you would never do it, was pleasantly surprised by Maria that act, which made the girlfriend. And here I am, took and did, Selena amazed herself. Well done. Now, the main thing is not to change your mind, Maria warned her. I think that will not happen, was sure of it, girl. She hung up the phone, went to bed. In the morning, she saw John packing a bag. It hurt that he didn't even say a word to her. Bye-bye. She sat at the table in the kitchen. Yep, he went out and slammed the door hard. Why is life so cruel? She put her head in her hands and once again cried. Maria was at her place that same evening. The girls were sitting at the table talking. Listen, when are you supposed to have a vacation? Asked her friend to Selena. I do not know, she thought, and indeed, she had not had a vacation for a long time. And that, go to the boss, say that you need a vacation, and fly to the sea for a week, Maria suggested. You're right, I need it now. Selena sat and looked at the kitchen aisle. Don't even think about it. Pack up and go, Maria advised. Okay, I guess that's what I'll do. The girl in her head had already made up her mind. The next day, she did indeed go up to the supervisor's office. According to the schedule, it turned out that her vacation should take place in 2 weeks, but the supervisor made concessions and let her go right away. After she signed the application, she immediately went to the travel agency. Hello, send me to a place where it is warm and nice, she asked the girl consultant. Now let's see. She began to look for information in the computer. There were many suggestions, but Selena didn't care. The main thing was to get away from here. Okay, then take this one. She turned the monitor to the girl. There was such a beautiful picture that she immediately agreed. Thank you. Selena paid and went home to pack her things. It was impossible to be at home. Emptiness and grief reigned here. Selena was sure that she would go there, rest properly, come back with new thoughts, and perhaps a different person. The trip took place 3 days later. Selena was sitting at the airport, reading a magazine and imagining how good she would feel very soon. Her plane was announced. She went to where she was invited. She slept through the entire flight, waking up when she was about to board. Welcome, she heard from all directions. Selina was pleased that everyone was so polite. She boarded the bus that would take her to the hotel. "Hello," the receptionist spoke in Russian. He quickly formalized all the documents, and here she is already standing on the balcony of her room and in front of only the sea and the beach. "Maria, you have no idea how beautiful it is here. I am happy," she called her friend. "I'm so happy for you, and it was true." "Okay, see the pictures. I will call you," she said goodbye to her friend. After that things were laid out, Selina was getting ready to go to the beach. She put on a swimsuit, tied a thin pareo on top, looked at herself in the mirror. A slim beauty looked at her from there. Great, she gave herself a tongue lashing. After that, she left the room, took the elevator downstairs. Not 2 minutes later, she was lying under the blazing sun, and in front of her was the warm, refreshing sea. "Can I settle down next to you?" She heard a man's voice. Yes, of course, she was not sorry. "Did you arrive today?" the same voice asked. Selina's face was covered by the hat, so she couldn't see her interlocutor. "How did you know that?" She pulled the hat away from her face. "It's just that you're so pale." He meant the color of her skin. That Celine felt embarrassed for some reason. A friend told her to go to a tanning salon, but she thought that she would get a good tan at the sea. "Don't mind me, I'm not in reproach," said the man, and went into the sea. Selina followed his example. It was nice when the water cooled her skin. She came to the hotel already in the evening. She was going to dinner, and then there was supposed to be animation. "Hello, are you alone?" A woman with a child approached her. "Yes, you wanted to sit down," she guessed, because there were no vacant seats in the hall. "Yes, may I?" The woman was still standing. "Sure, have a seat," she pointed to the empty seats. "Why such a pretty girl and alone?" asked the new tablemate, who had already started eating. "Sometimes you need to rest alone," Celine hated to say. "Okay, I'm not annoying." She continued her meal. "Thank you," was grateful to the girl. The evening was fun. Selina saw that there were a lot of people here. Children were running around, dancing. At some dance, Selina stood up to move around. "Thank you, it was so much fun," she said to one of the waiters as she left for her room. "You're welcome," he said back to her. That night, the girl slept very well. The sea air and the active vacation had taken its toll. She wanted to lie down a little longer, to look at the night sky, but sleep came quickly. In the morning, she woke up in a great mood. She went to breakfast and met the woman who had sat with her at dinner yesterday. "Hello, and I have a place for you here." She pointed to the chair opposite. "Thank you." Selina put her beach bag there and took a plate and went to the buffet. "Good." The woman looked around. "Yes," Selina agreed with her. "The daughter is still asleep. I did not want to wake her up," admitted the interlocutor. "Well, it's a good thing she didn't see at these breakfasts." Selina remembered how she herself didn't want to wake up very early just to eat. "That might be true," the woman nodded her head. They sat for a while longer, and then the girl went to the sea. It was nice there, just like yesterday. Selina found a free place, took a sunbed. It was nice, but when it was time for lunch, she went back to the hotel. Selina changed her clothes and went to the restaurant. She took a free seat. As soon as she sat down, someone came up behind her and closed her eyes. Why make a joke like that? She took hold of the hands of whoever was standing behind her. To be honest, Selina thought it was the woman who was with the baby. "Hello," whispered a male voice in her ear. "Jack, what are you doing here?" She was stunned to the core. "How are you doing?" It was like he didn't hear what she was asking him. "I'm fine, but tell me." She looked around as if she might see something or someone. "It's okay, let's go." He held out his hand to her. "But I just got here." She didn't know what to do. "Let's go somewhere else." He pulled her. "Where?" She didn't understand. "You'll see for yourself." They walked between the tables. Then they went into a small, bright room. There was a table set for two. "Is this a VIP room?" She was surprised. "Don't you like it?" He was smiling the whole time. "I do," she nodded. Jack pulled back a chair. The girl sat down. "What are we ordering?" His eyes lit up. "Did Maria tell you where I was?" She still couldn't believe it could be a coincidence. Even if it was, what did it matter now? He looked at her gently and took her hand in his. Celine fell silent. She was actually enjoying this man's company. Here she thought she could afford to flirt with him a little. No one would see, and no one would know. After they had eaten, Jack took her hand again. "And now I have a surprise for you." The young man smiled enigmatically. "What?" They'd only been around for a short time, but this was the third time he tried to surprise her. "You'll see for yourself." They were heading towards the sea, but a little to the left of the place where Selena always rested. The closer they got, the clearer it became to her what he had in store. There were yachts on the shore, probably one of them Jack was going to take her for a ride. "No, say it's a dream," she turned to him. "Why not?" he laughed, then walked over to one boat. The captain was already there. He set up a gangway, which Jack and Selena used to climb up onto the deck. "You're incredible." Selena watched the waves gently sway, and they on them. "Ordinary." He handed her a life jacket. "What's that for?" She tensed. "It's the way it's supposed to be. By the rules." He smiled again. What a good time they were having that evening. They drank champagne, talked and laughed. "I didn't realize I could sit like this with anyone else," she said quietly. "Why?" He wanted to get to know her completely. "When I met my husband, I loved him, and I still love him." She didn't lie. "You know, a lot of people may not be exactly what you think or imagine," he began to say for some reason. "Have you been betrayed too?" she guessed. "You know, I don't feel like talking about it." He looked away. Selena realized that the man had been hurt by something in his life, too, so she didn't pry. They swayed on the waves. It was getting dark outside. "Shall we go?" He stood up and gave her his hand. "Good." She followed him. They were in the hotel lobby. "I don't want to overstep my bounds, but maybe you'll come up to my place?" Jack asked. "No, I'll meet you tomorrow for breakfast." She didn't want to give any excuse. "Okay, to you tomorrow then." He walked over and kissed her cheek. "Bye." She enjoyed talking to him. She went to her room. There she lay on the bed, remembering the touch of the young man. She remembered her feelings for John. They had already dulled a bit, or maybe it was because she was far away from him. Selene, she went downstairs and Jack was already waiting for her there. And again they sat in the lighted hall and had breakfast. "Have you decided to spend all your money on me?" She wanted to ask him that yesterday, but she was too shy to ask. For some reason, Selena felt like he wanted to impress her. "What are you talking about?" "I do it all from the heart," Jack said. "We're going on a city tour today, and I'd like to go sightseeing and shopping. So, let's go together, just the two of us." "I have a car," the young man suggested. "If it doesn't interfere with any of your plans, then I agree." She tilted her head a little and looked at him. "I don't have any plans other than you." He stroked her arm. "Then I'm with you." She realized he wasn't just going to let her go. That's great. Jack was really glad he hadn't flown here for nothing. After that time when John came home and Maria called him to let him know, he kept in touch with her. She told him how bad Selena was feeling. He wanted to come to her aid, to talk, to support her, but the girl convinced him that he didn't need to do that. When Maria suggested that Selena go on vacation, that was Jack's idea too. As soon as he found out where and in what hotel the girl checked in, he immediately rushed over. And now they are sitting on the beach together. He could not even dream of it. "Tell me, where do you work?" Selena asked. Since they decided to recognize each other, why not find out? "I'm an executive at a big company," Jack said. Wow, so young and already an executive. She wasn't jealous, just surprised. "My father used to run the place, but lately he just can't." "He's been sick," he said sadly. "I'm sorry, I hit a nerve." She was really embarrassed. "Come on, let's go, or we won't make it till dark." He smiled at her and gave her his hand again. "You're so thoughtful." With each passing minute, Selena began to catch herself thinking that she liked this man. They walked outside the hotel grounds. There was indeed a car in the parking lot that the young man put Selena in. They drove off. "How do you know so much about this country?" She was surprised when he kept talking. "We had partners here that we cooperated with for a long time." He didn't hide anything from her. Understandably, she looked around. Everything was beautiful and interesting. After a while, Jack pulled up in front of a store. "Why this one?" the girl wondered. "Because it sells the most delicious tea, as well as handmade handkerchiefs." He opened the door and helped her out. Indeed, from the outside, the unremarkable store turned out to be a beautiful store inside. "Try this one." He handed her one of the shawls. How beautiful! She felt how soft and pleasant it was to her body. "I'm buying it," he told the salesman. This day was very good. Selena was grateful to her companion for the excursion and the gifts. All the days for which the girl had a voucher young people spent together. Jack never once invited Selena to his place again and did not ask for her. It was nice for her. "That's it, I have to fly away," she told him on her last night. They were standing on the beach. "Okay, when you land, right?" He wasn't leaving until tomorrow. "I will, but I can't promise we'll have it the same there as here." She didn't look at him. "Why not?" He was looking away too. "Jack, I'm married, and even though we have a bad family relationship right now, John could come back at any time," she said quietly. "Why don't you divorce him? After all, he has hurt you so much." He turned to her now. "I love him." She didn't want to say it, but now Jack forced her to. "What are your feelings for me? It can't just be that." He turned away again. "Jack, don't make me say something bad that you won't like." She was being honest with him. The young man walked her to the bus and sat her down, touching her cheek in the process. "Right," he said in her ear and released her hand. Selena got in, took her seat, and looked at the man who had treated her so carefully for a long time. As she drove, her phone flashed a lot. It was Jack texting, saying that he really wanted to continue communicating, that he would be waiting for her call or message. Selena did not answer anything. She did not want to give him empty promises. On the airplane, the girl, like the first time, slept the whole way. She got off at the airport and immediately wrote to the young man as promised. "Maria, what did you do?" she said to her friend when they met. "Did you feel bad?" she asked her. "No." Selena felt ashamed. She lowered her head. "What then? I think Jack is the perfect man, and you're fixated on some John who doesn't love or appreciate you," Maria practically shouted. "Maybe you're right about something." Her friend couldn't help but agree. They sat in the cafe. Selena showed her what Jack was writing to her. Maria read it and smiled. "And what did I tell you?" She snuggled up to her friend. "Okay, he's back, he wants to meet, and I can't," the girl said bitterly. I can't, and I can't." Maria got angry again. "That's it, stop talking about it." Selena couldn't help herself. She and her friend parted ways, both of them with their own opinions. Selena was still on vacation. She was walking home, not suspecting that another surprise was waiting for her there. "What?" She stood at the door, which was open. Selena pushed it open, quietly entering. The girl knew for a fact that she had closed it when she left. "Selena, is that you?" Came out into the corridor John, then almost brought his wife to a heart attack. "You can't do that." She stood there looking at him with big eyes. "I'm sorry if I scared you." He hugged her. "What are you doing?" She pushed him away. "I'm sorry, you fool. I get it. It won't happen again." He kneeled in front of her. "What kind of concert did you put on here?" She couldn't watch it. "What can I do to make you forgive me?" He seemed willing to do anything. "I'm not mad at you." She was afraid to look her husband in the eye. Come in. Why are we standing here in the hallway? He helped her with the bag he took from her hands. Thank you for the invitation. She walked into the room, seeing John's things lying in the closet. You don't mind? He followed her gaze. As long as you don't start acting like a fool. She walked to the kitchen. Her phone vibrated incessantly. She just turned it off so as not to give her husband a reason. That evening they sat with John in the kitchen, talking. He was bragging about something, but Selena didn't believe him anymore. She stared at him, not understanding why she could love him, but she didn't have the strength to leave him either. Jack, hello. She dialed him the next day. Selena, why didn't you answer and then turn your phone off? He asked her first. John's back, she admitted honestly. What? And you forgave him again and let him go? He couldn't understand. Yes, that's my husband. She didn't want to discuss it. Okay, let's meet. Just talk, Jack begged the girl. No, I can't. Then it wouldn't be fair of me. She walked to her office, said goodbye to Jack, disconnected her phone. How was your vacation? Her co-workers asked. Great. She remembered how good it had been there with the young man. I congratulate you, a woman approached her. On what? Selena didn't understand. They say you have a new suitor. The colleague was surprised. Who says so? It became scary that Jack could take pictures of them, and now these photos have appeared somewhere. Maria, your girlfriend told me. The woman didn't know what was going on. It's all her dreams. She's always trying to introduce me to someone. I have my husband back, Selena said in a tone that was impossible not to believe her. I see. I'm sorry. She sat back down. A message popped up on her phone where Jack was inviting Selena to lunch. She told him yes. She couldn't run and hide from him all the time. 5 minutes before lunch started, she left the office, and a few minutes later, she was already at the cafe where Jack had called her. Hi. She walked over to the table where the young man was sitting. Hello. He jumped to his feet. I'm sorry I didn't answer. She was ashamed in front of him that she used to let him talk to her, take her hand, kiss her on the cheek, and now she just disappeared. It's okay, he ordered. What did you want to talk about? She was curious, although she assumed the topic of conversation. About us, he made no secret of it. There is no us. I told you my husband came back to me. She looked him in the eye. I don't believe you that it's all true, he ventured directly. Why did you want to interfere in my life? Yes, we spent time together. It was good. But as a friend, Selena was annoyed by this conversation. And if I told you that your husband is being dishonest, would you believe me? He leaned closer to her. What do you know about John? You're not the same person, or did you make inquiries? She was indignant. I didn't do any checking. Jack realized it was useless to talk to Selena. Thanks for lunch, I'm off. Don't call me again, she asked. You'll be sorry, Jack said after her. Is that a threat? She stopped. No, you'll just figure it out when you need to. Jack stood up too. He paid and walked towards the exit. I can't believe it. She walked the other way away from the young man. Selena arrived home. John was meeting her. It wasn't the same now as last time. Her husband was talking to her. They were even sleeping together. John, where have you been for so long? She stroked his head. Foolishly, he turned away and closed his eyes. Selena lay there, thinking. If her husband finds out about her connection with Jack, then he will definitely leave. He won't even ask. You won't leave again, will you? She pressed herself against him. But John didn't answer her. He was asleep or pretending to be. Selena saw that he had started putting money away again. He was giving her crumbs. But none of that mattered. The important thing was that he was home. The rest didn't matter. Selena, let's meet. I need to tell you something. Jack called her the next day. Thank you. You already told me everything yesterday. She was adamant. Please, he begged. No. The girl cut her off and hung up. Selena, why are you acting like a fool? Maria called her. He called you, she guessed. What should he do? if he fell in love up to his ears, and you with your John, cheater, could not restrain irritation, friend. What are you saying? How can you force a married woman to do something? She could not believe that for the first time in her life, her friend was not for her, but for some Jack. You're running around with your marriage like a chicken and egg. Your John will dump you again. Don't complain. She threw the phone down. Okay, Selena stomped her foot. Everyone was against her. I'll take care of this myself. Hello, Jack. Come to the same cafe we were at yesterday. She dialed his number. Great, she could hear that he was very happy. Okay, listen to me and don't interrupt. She put her hands on the table and leaned into him. Okay, he smiled. I have a husband whom I love. The fact that you and I spent time on the sea, it doesn't mean anything. I love someone else, and I live with him under the same roof. No one gave you the right to interfere. Now, our last conversation with you. Delete my number and never write or call me again. She was red while she was giving this speech. I hear you. Now listen to me. He stood up. I don't want to. She turned around and was about to leave. Do you know what your husband says about you at work? He shocked her with his question. No. What's that got to do with it? She was silent. She didn't know what to think. You're not economical. You don't do anything for him. You don't know how to cook. He began to enumerate. Where did you get all this from? She came very close to him. I am his boss, and believe me, I know a lot, he told her. No way. She sat down in her chair. Then, when you came to the corporate party, I went crazy. I couldn't think about anything but you. When I heard John talk about you, my fists clenched. He took a seat across from her. It wasn't true. She couldn't believe this man was telling her the truth. Even more so, he took her hand. What do you want? She looked up at him, tears forming in her eyes. I want you to see who your hubby really is. He'd sell his mother for money. Jack sighed and turned away. I know he's greedy for money, but not that greedy. Selena sat and looked at Jack with big eyes. She didn't want the tears to flow now. You know I'm right. Why can't you believe it? You had it once before. He came back because he was short of funds. He did it now for a reason. Jack stopped talking. You know something? She blinked, a tear trailing down her cheek. I know, he nodded. Tell me, she waited. I can't. I'm ashamed. He couldn't look her in the eye. What is it? She couldn't understand why, if they were talking about her husband, and Jack was ashamed. It involves you and money. He was silent again. I don't understand. How could I be involved in your affairs? She really didn't understand anything. Did your husband tell you that there was a vacancy in our management? He started to tell her. Yes, she nodded, but he said that he was being praised by his superiors and that the position would probably be his for merit. Every last word is not true. He came back to you because I decided to check him out. I agree that this is mean, but otherwise, I could not prove to you that he is mercantile, said the young man. I don't understand. Speak normally. She really sat there and looked, like in school, when they explain new material. Promise me you won't hold a grudge against me after what I tell you. He sat back, holding her hand and waiting for an answer. Okay, she nodded. She was both scared and curious to hear what this man was about to say. When a seat became available, several transfer applications were placed on my desk. As I looked through them, I was surprised to see John's application. He hadn't been working, compared to the others, for that long. Why should I have taken him? Jack began to tell me. And what, you called him in, she guessed. Yes, asked him why he was so keen to take a management position. Didn't he like it at his own place? He didn't deny it. He said he was living alone now. He lacked financial resources. His wife took away the apartment, filed for alimony to support her. I mean you. He had already lowered his eyes because he had let them lie to John. It's not true, and you know it. She was crying now, unashamedly. Yes, I know, but you don't. He looked at the entrance. There were people coming into the cafe. Go on. She decided not to pay attention to anyone. I told him I have an offer for him, and if he accepts it, the position is in his pocket, Jack admitted. What kind of offer? Selena had no idea what her husband would do for a position and money. I told him that if he convinces his wife to spend the night with me, I will immediately write an order for his appointment. He looked at the girl's reaction. What? And what did John say to you? She got back on her feet. Why do you think he came back to you now, since he didn't leave in peace last time? He waited for her answer. I hadn't thought of that. Selena sat back in her chair. And what? You believe me now? He couldn't even think that Selena might not. But John didn't offer me anything, and he didn't tell me anything. She knew it was nonsense, but she couldn't help it. Let's put it this way, I'm nice to you. Would you be able to build a relationship with me? He asked her forehead. I think so, she nodded, if her husband wasn't there. Yes, yes. How could it be without that clarification? He even chuckled a little. What were you going to say? She waited. I won't call you and ask for meetings until your husband offers you what I've asked of him. He approached her. And if he doesn't, she was still defending him. Okay, then nothing at all will happen. Otherwise, you pack up and come to my place, and then we'll decide on our relationship. He was as if he was putting conditions on her now too. I can't rearrange myself like that right away. Selena stood up. She went into the kitchen to feed her husband. Hi, come into the kitchen. It was business as usual. They ate. After that, for a while, John closed himself in his room. Selena got ready for bed at that moment. She waited for her husband, but he sat down to watch TV after leaving the room. Selena never waited for him that night. She fell asleep. Why did you stay up so long last night? She asked him in the morning, at breakfast. Needing to think, he didn't look at her. Today was a day off. Selena was going to do some cleaning. What are your plans for today? Her husband asked Selena. Nothing. What did you want? She hadn't heard him say that for a long time. To take you out. He reached out his hand, took his wife, and pulled her close to him. Wow. Why so generous? She was pleasantly surprised. Why can't I please my wife? He said simply. Why can't you? You can. She was glad that after such a long time, they would be together again for a walk or a sit down. Then be ready for tonight, he asked. Agreed, she nodded, and went to take a shower. By evening, Selena was indeed ready. She put on a nice dress. While John was getting ready, the girl decided to call her friend. Hello. She made sure John didn't hear her. Wow, who's calling? Maria laughed. Enough already. Selena realized that after the last conversation, her friend had left a bad residue. Okay, what's up? She wanted to hear what Selena was gonna tell her today. John and I are going to the restaurant, she said quietly. What happened to him? I didn't understand her friend's generosity. I don't know, but if that's why I think you'll be the first to know. Selena began to speak in riddles. What's the quest? Even got curious to her friend. Later, just can't talk right now. She saw John leave the room. They went to an expensive establishment. There, the husband helped his wife sit down, doing everything he could to keep her from speaking. At one point, Selena found it funny. Do you want to ask me something? She began to bring him to the conversation. Not exactly, he blushed. Why the sudden concern? She couldn't understand it. Why can't I just go out with my wife? He made a surprised face. Okay, if that's true. She started eating the salad that was brought to her. Selena, what happened to our relationship? Remember how good it was? He said in a husky voice. I'd have to ask you, before you chased your fortune, everything was fine. And then you became a crumb, Selena said frankly now. That's not true. I did my best for my family. John seemed to believe what he was saying. Okay, let's not bring up the bad stuff. After all, we're good now. She stopped his truthful outpouring. Okay, he raised his glass. What shall we talk about? She wished John was like he used to be, the same fun guy who made her laugh all the time. I don't even know if he was telling the truth, because lately he didn't know what to talk about with his wife. He's been going to bed later and getting up earlier to avoid seeing her. And now he decided to invite her here, thinking that she would start a topic and he would support her. Then I'll tell you how I had a vacation. She decided to share her memories with him. You went on vacation. He was surprised, because when they lived together, they did not go anywhere. There was not enough money. Yes, I needed to get away from everything you told me. She looked into his eyes, waiting for a reaction, but there was none. Okay, let's eat and then go home. The evening doesn't end here, John suggested. They tasted all the food, and after that John started to pack. I thought we were going to spend a little more time here, she wondered. There's still a surprise waiting at home, he spoke cryptically. Okay, let's go, was Selena curious. They were home when John carried a large package out of his room. What is it? She couldn't understand. Look at it, he smiled. Selena opened the bag. Inside was laundry. Wow, John, she couldn't believe her eyes. Her husband had never given her a gift like this before. Just don't wear it tonight, sometime later, he asked her. Okay, she shrugged. For now, he took her in his arms and carried her into the bedroom. You what? Let go, she laughed. Okay, he put her on the bed. John, his wife, looked at him. Be quiet, he said softly. When both were already in bed, John started telling Selena what he wanted from her. Look, you know how much I want this position, he told her in a whisper. What? She really didn't hit him at first. Remember I told you about the management position? He was away from his wife for a moment. Oh, you mean that? She stopped talking. You know what the supervisor told me, that he wants to spend the night with you, he continued to say, and Selena's ears rang. She couldn't believe Jack was right. What did you say? She decided to finish the conversation. What can I do? He said, I'll ask you, he whispered in her ear. How? She sat up in bed and stared at her husband. Selena, you know how I've been dreaming of taking this place for a long time. Well, what should you do? Go to him for one night, he begged. Do you realize what you're saying? She couldn't contain her emotions. I also bought you beautiful lingerie, he nodded at the package, which just looked at the girl. You're crazy, selling your own wife to the boss. The scariest part was that Jack wasn't fooling her. Say, would it do you any good? He was still urging her on. It won't, but that's not how it works. Did you come back to do this on purpose? She pretended she'd figured it out on her own. You love me, and a woman who would do anything for her husband would do what he asked, and he meant it. Okay, so she took a shower, and then she got dressed in front of John on purpose. She wore the same lingerie he bought her, short dress, stilettos. You're gorgeous, and the best woman in the world, he told her. Yeah, call your boss, tell him I'm ready. She didn't want to do it herself. Right away, honey, he went to his room to get the phone. After he talked to Jack, he texted Selena that he was waiting for her in the driveway. Bye, love, she said wryly, and walked out. Hi, she got in the car. Wow, you're beautiful, he looked at her. Thanks, let's go already, the girl said nervously. So, how did he present it to you? The young man wondered. As you said, just said that if a woman loves, he will do anything for love. I couldn't stand it. I ran away, she cried. Does it hurt to be betrayed? He asked Selena. Yes, how could he think that I could agree, said the girl. Don't think and forget about him. Jack put one arm around her. Where are we going? She had to ask him because she had to spend the night. If you want, we can go to my place, or I'll get you a hotel room, he told her. Okay, I agree, she looked at the man with gratitude. Then we'll go. And in a few hours you'll call your, as I think, already ex-husband. He looked at the girl, she nodded. They drank champagne in the room, talked, and then Selena dialed her husband's number. What, is it over already? John didn't understand. Yes, and now I'll come home. Don't sleep yet, she asked him. You think I'm going to live with a fallen woman? He laughed into the phone. What, you're leaving me again? She said playfully. What did you think? I'll come back for more love. I don't need it. You did me a favor. That's enough. Now you can go to all 4 sides, he said and laughed at that. Now do you believe what your husband is really like? Jack asked when she hung up the phone. Uff, it's disgusting to even hold the phone after saying that. She threw it on the bed. So, are you going to apply tomorrow? He asked Selena for the umpteenth time. Yes, but what is it? He will now be in chocolate. And about me to think that I can lie with anyone. She did not understand it. What do you think? I can hire a man who will do anything to get a money place. He even stood next to her. What are we going to do? The girl was curious. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Now go to bed. He kissed her and left, promising to come back in the morning. John was going to work today in a very good mood. He put on his jacket, pants, polished his shoes, and went outside. When he got up to the office, he went straight to his boss. Jack, may I? He looked in at him. He did, he replied. When John entered, he almost fell from surprise. His wife was here. I filed for divorce, she said. Well, what are you doing here? He asked. This is my future wife. Love and respect, Jack said. What? What's he saying? We've been together once, and that's it. We're already married. What are you, a hussar? He laughed at him. I don't see anything funny. Here are your papers. I won't detain you any longer. Jack gave him everything he needed. You have no right. I will take you to court, he shouted. Goodbye. The warden looked at him calmly. She was the one who said that about me. In fact, everything is not true. He was still trying to justify himself. That's it. Closed the door, Jack. Thank you. Selena walked over to him. She was so grateful to this man for opening her eyes to her husband's true nature, for being so reverent. No matter what she did, no matter how much she blew him off, he waited. Will you marry me? He handed her the ring. Were you getting ready? She tried not to laugh, but she couldn't. If she had, it didn't change anything. He was confident. Okay, she took the ring. Then we'll wait for the annulment certificate to be issued and go file the application. He was very serious. I'd go to the ends of the earth with you. They hugged. The wedding was gorgeous. A lot of people were invited. All the staff were there too. Congratulations, they shouted with glee. I'll definitely congratulate you now. The same coworker came up to her. You can do it now, she smiled. How did you get such a tidbit? The woman asked. If my husband had been decent and loved me as I loved him, Jack and I would never have been together, she believed. It's understandable. People were happy when they saw the couple. By now, Selena was no longer working anywhere. Her husband was against it. John still wrote to her for a long time, threatened, but when she stopped responding to these messages, he calmed down. Beloved, and where will we go on a trip? She asked. How about to our place where we spent so many happy days? He asked her. I agree. She hugged him and kissed him. A couple of weeks later, they were already sitting in an airplane that was on its way to land. Again, 6 unforgettable days in paradise with her lover. Listen, why didn't you have children? Her husband asked Selena. You see, John always said that first career and then the children. I did not argue because I believed it was obvious that she did not want to talk about these topics. Don't worry, we'll catch up. He pulled her close. And I'm not worried. When such a man is near, then you cannot think and do not worry. Good. He believed that everything would be fine. They'd been married over a year, and Selena still hadn't gotten pregnant. Maybe I have some kind of disease. That's why I can't conceive, she asked. What are you talking about? He couldn't understand why she was so fixated on this. Maybe, for your comfort, we can take a baby from an orphanage, her husband asked her. Okay, that thought had crossed my mind too. She was kind of relieved. They went to see the kids. Mummy, They screamed. "Oh, I can't," cried Selena. Her husband led her out into the hallway. "It's okay," he hugged her, calmed her down. "Let's go home," asked the girl. At home, they discussed the situation. It turned out that the girl could never look at those who were once abandoned. "Jack, I don't feel well. Selena didn't let anyone sleep last night. It must be the effects of stress," he supposed. "I don't know why that is," she was curling up. Jack didn't wait. He called an ambulance. They came quickly. Selena was there, Jack beside her. "So, Dad, did you wait?" Raised the doctor's eyes to him. "Is that what I was thinking?" Only the young man didn't jump up and down. "Hush, hush, you'll be parents soon." He led him out into the hallway. Selena had been sedated. She was sleeping peacefully now. "My love, I don't believe in what we have with you. You had to go through so much and go through so much to wait for such happiness." At that moment, Selena opened her eyes. "What's wrong with me?" She looked at her husband with horror. "Sweetheart, we're about to have a little one," he told her. "It can't be." She pulled herself up and hugged him. "Lie down, you have to be very careful now," he warned her. "Everything will be all right." She saw how much he cared for her. They arrived home the very next day. Jack was by Selena's side everywhere, and she appreciated his actions. One day she went for a walk. Her husband was at work. She was walking down an alley, and suddenly a man walked quickly towards her. Selena did not expect anything bad, but he ran up and pushed hard. The girl fell. Already at the last moment, she saw how the offender looked back. It was John. "Jack, come," she called her husband. "What's wrong?" He knew right away everything was wrong. "John wanted to do something to me." She said it as if her life had been attempted. A few minutes later, Jack was home. He examined his wife. She was fine. "I'll probably go to the hospital. It's safe there," Selena asked her husband. "Okay, just not in this town. Why give birth where everyone knows each other?" He took Selena to a good paid clinic where she was placed in a private room. "If anything happens, call right away," he told his wife. Of course, they kissed. Everything started early. The doctors thought it was due to nerves, and Selena tried to hold back and not think about the worst. "Breathe, it's okay," the doctor told her, and Selena was afraid. A baby boy was born, and he was weak because the due date for labor was not yet approaching. But as a couple months passed, the young parents went home with him. Sam lifted his son Jack above his head. "And I want a daughter," Selena said. She loved watching the father drive his son around. "You'll have a daughter, I promise." Her husband couldn't believe he'd gotten everything he'd ever wished for. He was sitting in his office at work when the janitor came in. "Where's Emma?" he asked the employee. "I don't know," he mumbled. Good, Jack didn't bother him. He decided to stay out of the way and walk out. When he was at the door, a knife stabbed him in the back. "What are you doing?" He turned around and saw John. Jack was taken to the hospital. He was in a coma for a week. The operation was done. After that, the young man was conscious, but could hardly speak. "Beloved," John had been taken away in custody, cried his wife at his bedside. "Enki," he agreed. That's it. He wouldn't touch anyone now. She had been inconsolable when she was first informed that her husband had been spiked in his own office. "I love you," Selena whispered. "Go home. Sam misses us there." He said it with just his lips and also his eyes, but Selena understood. She kissed her husband and drove to where her second favorite man was waiting for her.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.